alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry I'm late. Last minute something come up. Do you have a tissue, please? Oh. Let's get started, inshallah. This will be our last dars. And inshallah, we will finish with this class, all of Fiqh Purification. Before we get started with this, we'll do a quick review from last time. Does anyone remember what we took last time? Ghusl. Anything else? Wiping. طيب. That's it. Ghusl and masih. Yeah. All part of ghusl. Okay. طيب. Al-ghusl. Quick review from last time, inshallah, then we'll just jump into today's lesson. And inshallah we'll finish within time. So ghusl we mentioned. What was ghusl? What is it required for? Let's just do a quick review. To remove major hadath. Okay. What are the pillars? What is a pillar from the pillars of ghusl? No, sorry. What is the definition of a pillar?
Leaving it out makes the ghusl invalid.
Okay. Does it matter how you leave it out? No? Very good. Regardless of whether it's intentional or unintentional, it renders the ghusl invalid. Okay? And we just said that there's one pillar, and that pillar is that you have to cover the entire body with water, including swirling and al-istinshaq, which is to sniff water up the nose. Okay? Obligatory actions of ghusl, we mentioned, how many are there? One action. And what is an obligatory action? Then it's invalid. Very good. And that is just to say Bismillah. Okay? And then we mentioned conditions. The conditions of ghusl are those actions that have to come before ghusl. Okay? Before someone starts the ghusl. And we mentioned that the conditions are just like the conditions of wudu. Okay? The same conditions we have for wudu, they are the same conditions that we have for ghusl. However, for intention, we mentioned that there are a number of intentions a person can make. What is the first intention?
Intend to remove both types of hadath.
Very good. Intend to remove both types of hadath. Okay? Major and minor. And if he does this, does he have to do wudu afterwards? No, he doesn't. Okay? Second is that he intends to remove?
Lift hadath completely.
No. Huh? Or lift hadath completely. Ahsant. Right? And if he does this, does he have to do wudu afterwards? No. Both types of hadath are lifted. Okay. You need to write it down? Okay. And the third type is that he only intends to remove major hadath. And if he does this, then what's the catch? He has to do wudu afterwards. Okay? Ahsant. The recommended actions. Anyone? Washing the hands 3 times. Washing the soiled area separately. Performing wudu during or before ghusl. Okay? Beginning from the right side. Rubbing the entire body. Alright? Pouring water over the head 3 times. And washing the feet in another place. Okay? Zubair, right? Yeah. Can you do sifatul ghusl from beginning to end? How do we do ghusl from the beginning to the end? Can you do just the bare minimum? Just tell us the bare minimum.
You say Bismillah, then you get your body covered, doing swirling.
Is it valid?
Intention before this, and then yes.
Intention. Okay. What if he makes intention, says Bismillah, and jumps in a pool?
Is the pool deep?
Is it valid or not?
Yeah, if he gets water in his mouth.
Very good. It's valid. If he puts water in his mouth and he puts water in his nose, it's valid. Or let's say rain, right? He makes niyyah, says Bismillah, goes out in the rain, right? And just lets his entire body get wet, all right? Is it valid?
Yeah.
It's valid. Yes. It's valid as long as he puts water in his mouth and his nose, okay? And we said this is even a condition according to Abu Hanifa. All right, even he says that you have to do madmada and istinshaq, swirl water in the mouth and put it up the nose. Okay. For a woman, if her hair is braided, does she have to unbraid her hair? No. What is the condition though? It has to touch the scalp. All right. Yes.
So if the hair stays braided, do you have to let a small amount of water touch the scalp, or do you have to go through the hair?
You have to go through the hair.
Some women have thick hair.
Yeah, she has to go through the hair.
So it has to be completely soaked in water, or?
Yes, it has to be soaked. It has to be completely, yeah, water has to go all the way down to the scalp, everywhere on the scalp. Okay? Because the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, تَحْتَ كُلِّ شَعْرٍ جَنَابَةٍ. He said every single sha'r, every single strand of hair has janaba on it, meaning major hadith. Okay? So the mafhum or the understanding of the hadith is that you have to wash every single hair with the niyyah of ghusl to remove this janaba and this hadith. Okay? طيب. Major hadith, next slide. It's not working. Things that necessitate ghusl. What was the first? Emission of semen, right? And we said that emission of semen is of two types. Okay? Number one is in a state of wakefulness, and number two is in a state of sleep. Okay? If it's in a state of wakefulness, then it has to come out as it normally would. All right? Not if it comes out because of exertion or sickness or extreme cold or whatnot, right? As it normally would. Only in that case, ghusl is wajib. Okay? And the second one, we said that if a person is sleeping, regardless of whether he remembers seeing a dream or not, as long as he finds balad, which is wetness on his undergarments when he wakes up, he has to do ghusl. Okay. Next one we mentioned was intiqalul mani biladha, or movement of semen with desire. Okay, so suratul mas'ala, or how we understand that, is that a person, he feels that the semen has moved inside of him, right, with desire. However, he holds himself and he doesn't let it out. Even in that case, it becomes wajib on him to do ghusl in that scenario. Clear? That was according to the Hanbali. And Jamhur say he does not have to unless it comes out. Okay, the majority say he does not have to come out, yeah.
What is the difference in the ruling for women? Because, some women have normal discharge. That's different. So if they're sleeping, wake up, then how do the women need to do ghusl in those things? It's just the normal.
I mean, if it's normal discharge and they see it as it normally would, then they wouldn't have to do ghusl at that point. All right? And that we're going to talk about in today's lesson. That is considered tahir. Okay, we talked about that. I think I mentioned it before. However, the vast majority of scholars say that even though it's considered tahir, it breaks the wudu. We mentioned that, right? For a woman, it breaks the wudu. Rutubatu farj al-mar'a, it breaks the wudu according to Ibn Hazm and Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahumullah, they say it does not break the wudu. Okay? And according to Maliki also, Imam Malik. Or maybe I mentioned that in the class in Maryam, I don't remember. The third point was intercourse, regardless of whether there's discharge or not, number one, and regardless of whether any type of contraceptive is used or not. Okay? This necessitates ghusl on both the man and the woman. Point number 4, the acceptance of Islam from a non-Muslim. Okay, and we mentioned this was again the madhab of the Hanabila. The rest of the Jamhur, they say it's mustahab. Okay, it's recommended. Did you guys take Usul al-Fiqh? No? Did you take Usul al-Fiqh? Anyone else? Okay. I think maybe it's important if we go over Usul al-Fiqh, because then it will help us understand why they differ and why they give different rulings. The third thing, or the fifth thing, sorry, it's death. Okay? When a person dies, ghusl is wajib on him in the sense that someone else has to give him ghusl at that point. Alright? He himself, of course, he can't do it. And the final point is cessation of menstrual blood or postnatal bleeding, and we'll go over that in detail today. What is defined as menstrual blood, menses, and postnatal bleeding? What is nifas? When this stops, it becomes wajib on a woman to take ghusl at that point. Okay? With the niyyah of, what is the niyyah she has to make? Very good. Remove the major state of hadath. Okay? Raf al-hadath al-akbar. Okay? What are the things that are forbidden on a person in the state of major hadath? Okay? We mentioned that everything that is forbidden on a person in the state of minor hadath is also forbidden on him in the state of major hadath. Okay? Such as praying, touching the Quran, except with a barrier. Very good. And what else? Tawaf. Very good. What type of tawaf is forbidden? Fard or nafl? Both of them. Okay. Next one, recitation of the Quran is also forbidden on a person on the state of janaba. Okay? State of major impurity. Okay? And we'll get to the khilaf, or the difference of opinion regarding women in the state of menses. Does she have to recite the Quran, or is it allowed for her to recite the Quran or not? But as for the man, right, it's not allowed for him. Or as for the woman, when she's in a state of major impurity, they're not allowed to recite the Quran. Okay, and this is the vast majority of scholars, Jamahir al-ulama. And finally, we mentioned sitting inside of the masjid. It's also forbidden. Okay, what are the scenarios we made with this? There's a lot of scenarios. Salam, huh? Passing through. Okay, Tayyib, let's do men first. Is it allowed for men to pass through? Yes. Disliked but permissible? No, I said, did I say it's disliked? For men to pass through?
Yes.
Without?
Without praying in the mosque.
Oh, okay, sorry. What I meant by this is simply passing through the masjid, right, and using a masjid as a walkway, regardless of whether you are in a state of major impurity or not, is disliked. Simply to use the masjid as a walkway, right, like you're taking a shortcut through the masjid, right, that is disliked. Because the Prophet ﷺ said that during the end of times, people will take masajid as walkways, right, and that's disliked. Now, for a man in the state of major impurity, if he needs to pass through, or even if he doesn't need to, he's simply passing through the masjid, all right? It's fine in relation to his hadath, all right? Not in relation to the action of passing through. Is that clear? Okay. If he wants to sit inside of the masjid, what does he have to do? At least make wudu. Okay? At least make wudu. Because the Sahaba, when they wanted to sit inside of the masjid and they were in a state of major impurity, the Prophet ﷺ would command them to do wudu. Okay? Who were these Sahaba? Who? Say again? Who were they? What was their name? Ahlul Sufa, Ahsant. Ahlul Sufa. Yeah. A woman passing through the masjid while she is in her menses. Assalamu wa rahmatullah. Yes, this is a fiqh class. You're welcome to join if you want to come.
We just have a meeting. I have some food, you guess. Some food, Indonesian food. I will bring it up.
Okay, thank you. It's not Ramadan, huh? You're not fasting Shawwal? A woman passing through the masjid, There are two scenarios now. All right? She's in a state of janaba. Is it allowed for her to pass through the masjid?
Yes.
Janaba is a state that a person enters after, intercourse or after a wet dream or something like this. Okay?
So make
It is a type of major hadith.
permissible.
It is not the only type of major hadith. Because if she's in her hayd, if she's in her menstruation, she's also in major hadith. But she's not junub. Right? There's a difference. Right? It's a state of major hadith. It's a type of major hadith that a woman or a man can enter after intimate relations. Tayyib. So if a woman passes through while she's in a state of janaba, all right, is it allowed for her to do so?
Yeah.
Yes, it's allowed for her to do so.
Same as man.
Same as man, all right? Is it allowed for her to sit?
Depends if she doesn't do it.
Wudu, same thing as man. Tayyib. Now let's go to her while she's in a state of her menses. Is it allowed for her to pass through the masjid?
Condition.
If there's a need,
Yes, very good. But what is the condition?
if the place will not be sold.
Very good. All right. If she can make sure that there will be no, the place will not be soiled or anything. Tayyib. And is she allowed to sit inside of the masjid now?
It depends. It depends as well.
It depends on a lot of things. We'll get to that. Okay, we'll get to that one, inshallah. Tayyib. Let's quickly do next slide. Tayyib. Al-Hawa'il. Thank you very much.
I will make it for you.
Jazakallahu khairan.
Just continue.
Okay.
I will serve.
Oh, you don't have to. We can serve.
Yeah, I have to bring back the plates.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Tayyib. The asl of wudu, or the default ruling of body parts in wudu, is that they have to be what? They have to be washed. Very good. Okay. And then we mentioned that there are exceptions to this ruling in certain scenarios. Okay. And the exceptions, they result in what? Wiping over these body parts. Okay. Very good. And we mentioned that there are 5 things that a person can wipe over during wudu. Okay. Al-hawa'il. هي تسمى بالعربية, right? You call them hawa'il, or I don't know how to translate hawa'il, like barriers. I mean, right? What were they? Can someone list the 5, please? A cast is one of them. Very good. A khimar. What is a khimar? The head covering. Okay, for a woman. Okay. Huh?
The turban.
The turban. Imama. Very good. What else? Socks, which are of 2 types. Leather and non-leather. Very good. Okay, these are 5 things. Okay, 5 things. Leather and non-leather socks, like you guys mentioned. Men's turbans, and for men's turban we said they have to have a condition. Either they are muhannaka, which means they wrap under the chin, or dhatu du'aba, or they have a tail. Okay? Is it permissible to wipe over a cap? Can you wipe over this? No. Okay, very good. What is this called in Arabic, by the way? Taqiyya. All right. So this is called topi in Urdu, and it's taqiyya in Arabic. Okay. Al-khimar. We mentioned the head covering for a woman, but it has to have a condition. What is the condition for the head covering of a woman? It has to be around the neck. Very good. All right. And finally, a cast, a jabira. And what if, my question is now, what if a person has an open wound on his arm and he has a layer of medication on top of this wound? Is this come under the ruling of a cast or not? Yes. A cast is not how we understand a cast to be, right? It's not, it's not simply a covering, right? That they put on the arm or on the leg or on the body part, right? It is any wound on the body that has something, applied on top of it. Okay, so what if you have a band-aid on your finger? It is a cast. It comes under the cast. Okay. For socks, the famous question on socks: is it allowed to wipe over socks? It depends. What are the conditions for wiping over a sock?
You can't see through. You can't see your skin.
How many conditions did we mention last time? 7. Tayyib, let's start from the beginning quickly. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khairan. Tayyib, what are the conditions? It has to cover the entire area that should be normally washed during wudu. Alright? And yastura jami'a mahall al-fard. Right? It has to cover the entire area that it has to be normally washed during wudu. Okay? So that includes the ankle. So, for example, no-show socks, are they allowed? No, they're not, because they don't cover the ankle. Okay? The second condition is that an yathbut bi nafsihi. It has to hold itself up. Alright? You can't tie a string to hold it up. The third condition, an yakuna al-khuffu mubahan. Right? The khuf or the jawrab, the sock, has to be something permissible. Alright? You can't steal your neighbor's sock and, wipe over it. La yajuz. Wa la yasih. Alright? It's not permissible, and masah over it is not valid either. Alright? Wiping over it is not valid. In the old days, they used to make socks out of leather or some type of animal skin. So if they made sock out of pig or dog, would it be allowed? It would not be allowed. Okay? Condition number 4, إمكان متابعة المشي على الممسوح عليه. Right? You're able to walk on it normally without it falling off. Alright? As we do customarily. We walk indoors. Alright? And we mentioned, according to the Hanafiya, their condition is that
You should be able to walk on it 3 miles.
you have to walk on it for 3 miles. So you got to test out your socks before you walk on them. Right? Next condition.
Going back to the swollen thing, like what if you borrow like your sibling's sock class?
That's fine. If you know that they will not, if you know that they won't mind, then it's okay. Okay, if you know that they won't mind, it's fine. You don't have to ask. I don't ask. Because I know they won't mind. If they mind, then I don't do it. طيب. Number 6, or number 5, طهارة عين الخف. Alright, it has to be pure. Alright, it cannot be made out of something impure. It cannot have najasa or impurity on it. Okay. Number 6, ألا يصف الخف القدم. The khuf, or the sock, it cannot show the skin color. Okay, it cannot show the skin color. You're welcome to eat, by the way, if you want. Go ahead. It cannot show the skin color. Okay, so if it shows the skin color like women's stockings or any of these things, it's not permissible to eat. It's not permissible to wipe over. Right? It's not permissible to wipe over.
Or eat.
Yeah. Alright. So these are all the conditions we mentioned for wiping over. There's one more condition, أَنْ لَا يَكُونَ وَاسِعًا, but it goes back to other conditions. Alright, it can't be so wide that if you walk on it, it falls down. Okay? Any questions on this? No questions? Conditions of wiping generally. Number 1, we said that a person has to wear after complete purification. Okay? Meaning after he completes his wudu, only then he can put on his socks or put on his turban or put on the khimar for a woman and then wipe over it. You can't do half of your wudu, right, and then put on the khimar and then complete the rest of it and then, say I'm going to wipe over it. It's not allowed. It's not valid. Okay? And we said wiping is invalidated by taking off the sock. Right? If you take off the sock, it's not valid anymore. The material, it must stay in place. And it covers the entire area. We mentioned this for the sock. It must cover the entire foot, including the ankles. For the turban, it has to cover what it normally covers. Okay? Which is the head. Meaning if the ears are left uncovered for a man when he wears a turban, it's fine. He doesn't have to cover his ears. Okay? For the cast, it has to be according to the extent where it's needed. Right? So if someone's wrist broke, right? He can't wear a cast all the way to his bicep or something. It's not allowed. All right? You have to take it off. For a woman's scarf, it has to go under the neck. It has to wrap under the neck. Okay? And the Hanabila are the only madhab that allow this, from what I know. Other madhahib do not allow it. Okay? Yes?
I have a question. I just wanted to ask, it's not really about wiping, but if it's not waterproof makeup and you're doing a regular wudu, is that acceptable?
No, you have to take it off. Yeah, you have to take it off. And we mentioned this about nail polish also, right? If nail polish is not breathable, you have to take it off. Okay? Any type of, what is it? وَإِزَالَةُ مَا يَمْنَعُ وُصُولُهُ. Right? It says in one of the books of Fiqh that you have to remove anything which prevents the water from touching the skin.
So I know I've once read like about wearing like kohl. So you have to remove the kohl completely and then do the
On the eyes?
Yes.
No, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be removed. Also, it touches that. I don't think that prevents it. It's so minute.
Plus it's like waterproof.
Yeah, it's so minute. Right. Right. We mentioned that a person can only wipe for minor hadith. Okay. He cannot wipe for major hadith unless it's in the case of a cast. He can wipe that for major hadith. The length of time one can wipe for the cast until the wound heals, even it's for months, or even, God forbid, it's for years, he can keep on wiping over it. Okay? For something other than a cast, for a resident, it's only allowed for one complete day and one complete night, 24 hours. Okay? And for a traveler, it's allowed for 3 days and 3 nights. Okay? And according to what we learned, as soon as the time ends, then the wudu is invalidated. At that point, he must take off his socks, or take off the khimar, or the turban, and he must do wudu again, and then if he wants to wipe again, put on those things again. Okay? The material wiped must be pure and permissible. We went over this. Okay? And the area that must be wiped. For a sock, where do you wipe? The bottom or the top? The top. What if someone wipes the side of the sock? Is it okay? No, it's not. It doesn't count. And I saw this a few days ago, actually. Someone wiped on the side of the socks. Right, literally on the side of the ankle. It doesn't count. What did I say?
So it's from the toe to
Toe, so they say if, so I demonstrated last time, if you begin from your toe to a little bit to your shin. Okay? A little bit above the ankles. Like to the beginning part of the shin. Most of the circular part of the turban, okay, and for a cast, how much does he have to wipe? The entirety of the cast, okay. And when does the time start? When does the time for wiping start? We mentioned that a resident is allowed to wipe for 1 day and 1 night. However, when does the time start?
Once you have
No.
minor.
No. When you just lose your wudu. Alright? When you simply lose your wudu, that's when the time starts. Okay? When you simply lose, and that's the Hanafi madhab also. As soon as you lose your wudu, right? That's when your time starts. So if he did wudu at 12 a.m., 12 p.m., right? And he wore his socks right after doing wudu, and then he lost his wudu at 6 p.m., right? But he did his masah at 9 p.m. When does his time start? At 6 p.m. Okay, not at 9. Tayyib, I think we went over this. Is it allowed to wipe on this? No? Allowed to wipe on this?
Yeah.
Yes. Is it allowed to wipe on this?
Yeah.
What type of turban is this? Under the neck. Okay. Is it allowed to wipe on this? No, it's not. Okay. Is it allowed to wipe on this? No, it's not. Allowed to wipe on this? Yes. What is this called? جبيرة. طيب ما في إشكال. أحسنتم. طيب, with that quick revision, we will jump into today's lesson and we will finish inshallah. Yeah. Okay, so what did we mention about this last time? How do we wipe over? How does this person do wudu?
He's washing his hands, he washes the parts that he can.
So what is the niyyah he makes in the beginning? To make wudu, raful hadath, okay? And then says Bismillah, washes his face, right? When he washes his right arm, or this is actually on his right arm, right? So he washes these two fingers, right? If he's able to. And then he washes the elbow. And then he wipes over the entirety of the cast, right? And then he continues his wudu until he finishes. Okay? And this is the easiest qawl. And this is the qawl of, this is a riwayah in the Hanbali madhab, and this is the qawl of the Hanafi madhab. The Hanbali madhab on this is actually a little complicated. They say that when you get to the cast, right, it depends on how you put on the cast in the first place. Were you in a state of tahara, or were you not in a state of purification? If you were not in a state of purification, then you have to do tayammum along with your wudu. You have to combine the two actions. So this qawl is easy. This is the Hanafi qawl if you want, and this is the riwayah in the Hanbali madhab. Yeah.
Do you do it 3 times?
No, you don't have. Just one time. Yeah. Tayyib. So inshallah today we'll start off with tayammum. We're going to cover 3 topics today. Tayammum, removing impurities and the types of impurities, and menstruation. Tayyib. At-tayammum, linguistically, it means al-qasd, alright? To direct your motives towards something, okay? Or to direct your energy towards something, okay? That is a linguistic meaning of al-qasd, or tawajjuh, or to face something, or to direct your energy toward it. For example, the Arabs, they say tayammamtu shay, meaning qasadtuhu, alright? I sought it out, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَيَمَّمُوا الْخَبِيثَ مِنْهُ تُنْفِقُونَ, right? Don't intentionally spend out of something that is khabith, all right? That is something that is lowly. If you're going to give something in sadaqah, give something of value. Don't give something that has no value, that people, if they take it, or if it was given to you, you wouldn't like to take it. So don't give it to someone else either. وَلَا تَيَمَّمُوا الْخَبِيثَ, right? Or technically, according to Islamic sciences, tayammum means wiping the face and the hands with pure dirt in a very specific manner. And tayammum is from the khasa'is, or the unique things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this nation over previous nations. The Prophet ﷺ said that I have been given 5 things that no other nation or no other prophet before me was given. Right? And from these 5 things was جُعِلَتْ لِيَ الْأَرْضُ مَسْجِدًا وَطَهُورًا. The entirety of the earth was made a masjid for me and a means of purification. Alright? The earth was made as a means of purification. This is the point of evidence from the hadith. Right? Meaning you can purify yourself. Alright? Meaning the dirt can be used as a replacement if you do not have water. When was tayammum obligated? Or when was tayammum legislated, I should say. Right? When the ayah of wudu was revealed in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Okay, when the ayah of wudu was revealed in Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayah number 6. And this was revealed in Medina. This ayah and this surah in its entirety was revealed in Medina. And the qissa, or the story of tayammum of this ayah, is that one time the Prophet ﷺ, he went with his wife and a group of the companions on a journey. Okay? And in this journey, I'm giving you a summary of the qissa, the stories narrated in Bukhari. If you want, you can go look it up. The hadith number is 3672. If you want to look it up, 3672. Bukhari 3672. Okay? So they stopped in this place, and Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she lost her necklace. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam held the entire caravan back just to search for the necklace. Okay, and in this particular place there was no water, so they didn't have any water to do tayammum with. They didn't have any water to do wudu with. And when the search for the necklace became long, right? The people, they went to the father of Aisha radiallahu anha and they complained to him, Abu Bakr, and they said, don't you see what Aisha has done? You know, she's held us back, meaning the Prophet ﷺ will not leave until he finds her necklace, right? And because of her, we're staying in this place and we're going through this hardship. So Abu Bakr, he went to Aisha radiallahu anha, he scolded her, and he said what he said to her, right? And while he scolded her, it said that he even, pinched her, or he hurt her, physically, disciplined her, you could say, right? And the Prophet ﷺ was sleeping on Aisha radiallahu anha's thigh, and she did not say anything, she did not move. And he kept on sleeping until the morning, and there was no water to do wudu with. At this point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he woke up, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed ayatul wudu. Alright, the ayat regarding, or the verses regarding tayammum. Okay? The verse regarding tayammum, I should say. Right? So the people, they performed tayammum, and they went, continued to search for the necklace, and where they found the necklace was a camel. The camel, under it was a necklace. I guess she dropped it over there. And after this incident, the companions, they went to Abu Bakr and they said that this is not the first of your blessings, O family of Abu Bakr. Meaning that because of your family, alright, this ayah was revealed. Okay? And a takhfif, or something easy, was made on the ummah as a whole. That when you don't find water, you can go to dirt. And tayammum is very easy to do. It's not difficult at all. In fact, it is easier than wudu. Much easier than wudu. Another hadith in relation to this, that regarding tayammum, is that Ammar, he said, I was sent out by the Prophet ﷺ for some job, alright, and I could not find water. The time of salah had come, or he needed water to do wudu with, and I could not find water. So what I did is that I rolled inside of the dust, okay, like a dabba, he says, like an animal. I just rolled, right? And I went to the Prophet ﷺ and I told him what I did. And the Prophet ﷺ said to him that it would have been sufficient if you did this. He took his hands, he hit them on the dust, he hit them on the earth, he blew them off, and then he passed his left hand over his right hand over his left hand, and then he wiped his face. And this is basically the hadith that are used for tayammum. Okay? So the adilla, or the evidences for tayammum, are proved through three ways. The first way is the ayah, which I mentioned. The second way is these ahadith. And the third way is the consensus of the entire ummah. Okay, and this is the strongest way to prove anything in the religion, when you have all three of these combined. Any question? The pillars of those of tayammum are those things that if they are left off intentionally or unintentionally, the tayammum is invalid. Okay, and the pillars of tayammum depend on for what reason you're doing tayammum. Are you doing tayammum for minor hadith or major hadith? Okay, you can do tayammum for both things. You can do it for minor hadith and you can do it for major hadith. Okay, the first one is wiping the face. Okay, and that for men includes the beard. You have to wipe the beard, the outside of the beard, not the inside. You don't have to take dust inside of your beard. Okay. The second one, and do you have to sniff it and swirl it?
That's the last one.
You don't have to sniff and swirl. No. It's harmful to you. Right? You don't have to sniff and swirl. Okay? The second is to wipe the hands. Both hands. Okay? And when we say hands, we mean that a person has to wipe this part of the hand. Okay, this part of the hand until the wrist. Okay, nothing past the wrist. If a person is doing tayammum for minor hadath, okay, as a replacement for wudu, then he has to observe tartib between the first two pillars, between wiping the face and wiping the hands. Okay, he has to observe that both of them are done in order, meaning he has to wipe his face first and then wipe his hands. Okay, and he has to observe muwala. What is muwala? We went over this.
Do it simultaneously
Without it drawing.
without just
But there's no drying in tayammum.
just do it pretty fast.
Huh?
Don't wait up too long.
How do you know what's too long? But you're using dust.
Still dusty. You can see the dust.
Use the same time frame as the reference.
Come on, I want you guys to...
Use the same time frame as the wudu.
Excellent. Use the same time frame as wudu, right? So you pretend as if you were washing a body part. And the time frame that it would take for that body part to dry if you were washing it, that's the time frame that you use for muwala in tayammum, in normal weather conditions. Okay? Yeah.
Why is it that minor hadath requires a lot more, is more rigid than
Because, very good question, because in minor hadath, right, what is tayammum a replacement for? Wudu. In minor hadath, right, we use wudu to lift the state of minor hadath. And in in wudu, we said that tartib and muwala, performing these actions in order and observing muwala, right, continuation in the action, there are conditions of wudu. Right? Since tayammum is a replacement for wudu, there are also conditions in tayammum. So when you do ghusl, do you have to do ghusl in order? No, you don't.
No.
Right? That's why we mentioned the scenario if a person just jumps in the swimming pool, it's valid. Right? He doesn't have to observe tartib. He doesn't have to swirl and sniff and then wash his entire body. He can wash his entire body, then sniff, and then swirl. He can do it in any order when he does ghusl. It doesn't matter. Right? Same thing with muwala in ghusl. Let's say a person was wearing a ring. Okay? And he washed his entire body in ghusl. Half an hour later, right, he found out that the ring was so tight on his finger when he took it off, that part was completely dry. Is his ghusl valid or not? What does he have to do to make it valid?
Wash that part.
Very good. Just go wash that part. That's it. Is his wudu valid? If he was doing wudu?
No.
What would he have to do if he had to do the entire wudu again? See the difference? Right? The same thing for tayammum.
In general, though, why is it to remove major hadath so much simpler than minor hadath?
Because we mentioned that for minor hadath, we looked at the ayah, right? And based on the ayah, we derived these conditions, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you guys remember how we derived these conditions, right? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha qumtum ila salati faghsilu wujuhakum wa aydiyakum min al-marafiq. Right? This is where we get all the pillars of wudu from. This is where we get tartib from also, right? And muwala we get from another hadith. And the hadith is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw a man who did wudu, right? And he came inside of the masjid to pray. And when he saw the man, he saw that there was a part on his foot that was dry. He hadn't washed, the rest of the foot was wet, but that part on the foot was dry. So the Prophet ﷺ ordered him to go back and do the entire wudu again. Right? So from the hadith, the scholars, they derived muwala. Right? Those are not conditions in major ghusl, in ghusl, removing major hadath. Right? All he has to do is pour water on his entire body.
So how can we actually use the whole wudu? Like, let's say if I'm doing wudu and then I go from washing my mouth to washing my face and I realize I didn't sniff the water. Do I have to start all over?
From washing your mouth to washing your face,
Yeah. So I skip the sniffing of the water.
what do you guys say? Doesn't matter. Very good. You can sniff first, and then wash your mouth, and then wash your face, right? Or swirl. You can wash your face, swirl, and then sniff. Or you can do it the sunnah way, which is to swirl, sniff, and then wash your face, right? Because the face all counts as one part. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Well, I guess then with another body part then, let's say I started washing my feet and I hadn't washed my face. I just started washing.
No, you just have to go back to your face, wash it, and then do everything after that in order. Right? Clear? The wajibat of tayammum are the same things that are for wudu. Okay? The first, and it's only one thing, alright, is that you have to say Bismillah. And this is the same thing for ghusl, and same thing for wudu. Just like you have to say Bismillah in wudu and Bismillah in ghusl, the same thing you have to do is say Bismillah in tayammum. Okay? Now I want to go over the sifa of tayammum. How do we do tayammum? Okay? There are basically 5 steps. The first step is that you make an intention. Okay? You make an intention as to why you're doing tayammum. And there are 2 major schools over here. I want to clarify this right now, because if you understand this concept, you'll understand concepts afterward. Why are you doing tayammum? Okay? The majority of scholars say that you do tayammum because you're making yourself eligible to perform an act of worship. Al-istibaha, they say. You're just making yourself, quote unquote, eligible to perform an act of worship. Okay? This is the vast majority of scholars. Okay? The 3 schools of thought. The Hanafi madhab says that you're doing tayammum because you're removing the state of hadith. Okay? Because they say that tayammum is a replacement for wudu. So just like with wudu, you remove the state of hadith, similarly with tayammum, you remove the state of hadith. Now let me ask you a question based on what you understood. What is the difference in application of these 2 opinions?
Would you need to do wudu once water is available?
All of them you have to do wudu when water is available.
No,
I'm talking about, let's just tayammum. Just tayammum. What is the difference between these 2 opinions in terms of practical application? In the first opinion, you're only making yourself eligible to perform a specific act of worship. In the second opinion, you're removing the entire state of hadith.
So once you've done the state, you've done just you pray, then you go back to being in the state of hadith.
Very, very close. Very close. You were always in the state of hadith in the first one. You never removed the state of hadith.
Second one, you need to do an act to break, to get into janaba, to have major hadith.
All of them you have to. All of them. Sister's side, anyone?
Yeah, you have to make the intention specifically for that specific action versus the other one, you just do whatever you want with it.
You're very close. If you get it, you can have my bowl. Almost there. Anyone from the sister's side?
For the first one, it says you're doing it for an act of worship, so it's just one specific act. It's not to do more than one act.
So what happens if you finish that act?
You have to do the tayammum.
Excellent. That's it.
You guys the one?
You want the ball? You give it to her. It's your wife. Huh? Yeah, that's it. That's it. All right. So according to the first opinion, once you finish that act of worship, you have to do tayammum again. So if you did tayammum for Dhuhr prayer, you have to do tayammum again for Asr prayer.
So you can't combine intention.
No. No.
So if you wanted to,
You can combine intentions. Hold on. Let me clarify that. You can combine intentions if you intend to pray 2 prayers, like if you intend to join prayers, right, then you can combine the intention. All right, then it's fine. Okay?
But you can't say anything for Dhuhr and then for Asr.
No, you cannot do that. Okay? So according to the first opinion, you have to do tayammum for every single prayer. Every single prayer you have to do tayammum. And this is the vast majority of scholars. Okay? Because they say that tayammum only makes you eligible to perform an act of worship. So if you want to touch the Quran and you don't have any water, you have to make tayammum with the intention that I'm making myself eligible to touch the Quran. Alright? Or to do tawaf. Or to, if you're in a major state of impurity, right, to recite the Quran. Right? Or to pray Dhuhr prayer. You're eligible in that sense. According to Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, right, since you remove the state of hadath, you can do as many acts of worship as you want. As long as you don't break your wudu. As long as you don't do any of those things that will break your wudu.
Does that also mean you have to do wudu once you find water?
All of them say once you find water, your tayammum breaks at that point.
But if it removes your hadith completely?
Oh, okay, I see your point. Yes, khalas. You have to do wudu at that point.
Okay.
You still have to do wudu because the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he said that once one of you finds water, if he's done tayammum, فَلْيَمَسْ بَشْرَتَهُ, right? أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. He says that let the water touch your skin, all right? وَذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ فَإِنَّهُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ, right? Or something that's better for you, or something that's good for you, okay? But that's very good, because if you say it removes your hadath, right? And you don't have to do the wudu, your hadath is already removed. So according to the lazim of that qawl, I see where you're going, you would say that you wouldn't have to do wudu until you broke your wudu with water. Do you understand? This is very crucial, this point, all right? Because all the rest of tayammum builds on this.
The last part, so if you do tayammum having the second intention, like we believe the second one, that it removes entire state of hadath, and you pray, and then you see water, and then it's the time for the next prayer. And you don't break, you haven't broken your wudu. Do you have to use the water to make wudu, or you can still use the...
I don't want to say that you can just use the tayammum. I would say do wudu at that point.
Even though...
Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only allowed tayammum, right, when there's no water. And yes, you can potentially argue that I already did the tayammum when there was no water, right? I would say do wudu, but I would have to double check on that. Right? I would have to double check on that.
So we're talking about salah specifically. When you did tayammum to pray Dhuhr, let's say, and you're not combining Dhuhr and Asr, right? So you're just praying Dhuhr only. But after Dhuhr, you want to read Quran, so you want to hold Quran.
Yes, you could do that according to Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa's qawl, right? According to, let me check if the Jumhur they allow this. I don't think so. I would have to double check, but these are two good questions. I will look up and I'll get back to you. Right? I think we should make a group or something on WhatsApp, and then we can just send the answers.
But according to all of them, if you make intention for like Dhuhr, you pray all of Dhuhr, you pray Sunnah.
Yes, you can pray all of it. Yes. Okay. Any questions here? So Abu Hanifa, actually this is one of those masalas that both sides have strong arguments, right? And the argument of the Jumhur, or the majority of scholars, is that there was a companion, I think Ammar his name was, okay? He was on a journey with some other companions, and it was a very cold night, and he had a wet dream. And they woke up in the morning, and because of the coldness, all right, in the morning time, he was afraid that if he used water, right, he would die because of how cold it was. So what he did was he did tayammum at this point, and he led his companions in prayer. And then when the companions, they went back to the Prophet ﷺ, they informed the Prophet ﷺ about what happened. He said he did tayammum while there was water, right? And he led us in prayer. So the Prophet ﷺ asked Ammar, he said, أَصَلَّيْتَ بِالنَّاسِ وَأَنْتَ جُنُبٌ? Did you lead people in prayer while you are in janaba? So the mafhum or the understanding of the hadith is that even though you did tayammum, the Prophet ﷺ still called him someone that's junub, someone in a state of major hadith. So that means his tayammum did not remove his major impurity. Right? This is the understanding of the majority of scholars. And so Ammar, he informed the Prophet ﷺ of what happened, why he did tayammum. So the Prophet ﷺ laughed and he said, it's okay, no problem. Right? But the shahid, or the point of evidence, is that Prophet ﷺ told him, أَصَلَّيْتَ بِالنَّاسِ وَأَنْتَ جُنُبٌ? Did you lead the people in prayer while you're still in the state of janaba, after he was told that he had did tayammum? You see, you understand the shahid, or the point of evidence from the hadith?
But they did not give the complete.
They gave him the complete story.
That there was
Yes,
water in
they
the
told
skin.
they told him there was water, and he still, did tayammum.
Does that make the tayammum invalid? Because,
It doesn't make the tayammum invalid, but it leads to the understanding of scholars that, look, the Prophet ﷺ is calling him junub. He's calling him in a state of major impurity, right? Even though he did tayammum. So that means tayammum did not lift his state of impurity, right? Abu Hanifa, the way he looks at tayammum, he says, number one, he says tayammum is a replacement for wudu. And the replacement takes the ruling of the thing that it replaces. So just like wudu lifts your minor impurity, tayammum lifts your minor impurity. This is one of his opinion, one of his evidences. Another of his evidence is the hadith we mentioned earlier. The Prophet ﷺ said, I've been given 5 things that no one before me was given. وَجُعِلَتْ لِيَ الْأَرْضُ مَسْجِدًا وَطَهُورًا. The entirety of the earth was made a masjid for me, and tahura, right? A means of purification. How do you purify yourself from something if it doesn't remove your state of impurity? You see the depth of their understanding? This is usul. And this goes back to another point we mentioned earlier. Right? What is the difference between tahur and tuhur? We mentioned this in the beginning of wudu. Tahur is the material you use for purification. Tuhur is the act of purification. So the hadith is tahura, the material used for purification. Right? You see how language comes into play in understanding and driving these rulings? Another one of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah's evidences is that the end of the ayah, ayatul wudu, وَلَكِنْ يُرِيدُ أَن يُطَهِّرَكُمْ, Allah says. So the beginning of the ayah starts with wudu, and then Allah says if you don't have wudu, or if you don't have water for wudu, right, then use tayammum. And then at the end of the ayah, Allah says, Allah wants to purify you. So purification is referring to everything that came before it. The turab, the dirt, and the water. I personally incline toward Abu Hanifa. This is a very strong call.
I do have a question about that. Like, so since you said it's a replacement for wudu, so
Yeah.
it's not a replacement for ghusl.
No, it's a replacement for ghusl too. Because in the ayah, junub is also mentioned.
Oh.
Right? وَإِن كُنْتُمْ جُنُبًا فَطَّهَّرُوا. Allah says in the same ayah. Right? You see? This is why sometimes, people ask, why do the scholars differ if their source is the same? They're the Quran and Sunnah. Everyone's using the Quran and Sunnah, right? No one's using anything else, right? This is why they differ. Because one ayah and one meaning can hold so many angles of looking at it. Right? There's not just one way to look at something. Yeah.
You can use tayammum for any type of major hadith?
Yeah. Major hadith.
Junub and
Yes. Yeah. And depending again on which opinion you take. Okay. Continuing, the conditions of tayammum. Number 1 is that a person does not have the ability to find water. All right, there's no water available. Okay. And when we say that there's no water available, it means that he must search for the water before he says that there's no water available. Okay. So the Hanabila, they say he has to go in all 4 directions forward, backward, right and left. If he knows someone that's in the area that knows about, the area, then he has to ask them. Okay? And they give many examples. Okay? And they say, the Hanabila say that since the Hanabila take the first opinion that it only makes you eligible, right, to pray a certain prayer, they say that he has to search for water in every single time of prayer.
Even though he's at the same place.
Even though he's at the same place, because it's possible that water might come. I don't know. It's possible. So they give you many examples of later on. Huh? No, they give many examples. Okay, I'll give you examples. All right. Water doesn't just have to be how we understand. You turn on the faucet, right, and water flows on or not. There's different examples. Okay. And this is the first type of inability. This inability either can be complete or it can be partial. When we say complete, it means that there is no water at all. And he does not have to be in a journey. A person can do tayammum even while he is a resident. Okay? However, in the Quran, right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن كُنْتُم مَرْضَى أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ أَوْ جَاءَ أَحَدٌ مِّنكُم مِّنَ الْغَائِطِ أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions safar, travel. He says while you're in a safar and you don't find water, then you do tayammum. So the scholars say that safar or travel is normally the case when people don't find water. However, it's possible even when you're a resident, you don't find water. Okay? And we'll mention examples of that. So there are many examples. Okay? The first example is a person is sick and he's not able to use water. Okay? Because he fears that using water will increase his sickness. Number one. Number two, delay his recovery. This is all under partial, meaning there's partial. When I say complete over here, meaning there's no water whatsoever. Partial means that there's water, but he's not able to use it for a number of reasons. And the first reason is, for example, he's sick. All right, and this type of sickness is such that if he uses water, it'll worsen his sickness or elongate it. In that scenario, it's permissible for him to use tayammum. The second scenario is that if he's inside of a building and he fears that if he goes outside, there's wild beasts, right? They'll kill him or they'll harm him. In that case, even though there's water, for example, a nearby well, he's allowed to use tayammum at that point. Or there is severe cold outside. And because of the severe cold, he feels that if he uses the water, he'll receive bodily harm. Like in the hadith of Amr ibn al-As. That was his name. Amr ibn al-As, not Ammar. Another scenario where he's allowed to use tayammum is if he's very thirsty and he only has enough water to quench his thirst. Should he use this water to quench his thirst or to perform wudu? In that case, the fuqaha say, quench your thirst and perform tayammum. Another scenario is that if he has enough water only for cooking or doing wudu, cook and do tayammum with the water. Another scenario is if he has a friend who's thirsty and he only has enough water either to give him, he himself is not thirsty now. Either he can give his friend or he can perform wudu. The fuqaha say, let him give his water to his friend and quench his thirst because of the honor of a Muslim. Right? It's greater than your own personal act of worship. And you perform tayammum. Or they say even if it's an animal that's dying of thirst, feed the animal or quenches the animal's thirst and you perform tayammum. Look at, subhanAllah, the mercy, right? And the ease. Another scenario which is actually quite applicable in our times. If a person's missing a flight and he fears that if he runs to the bathroom to perform wudu for his salah, he'll miss his flight. Right? It's permissible for him to perform tayammum at that point. No, if he can do that, if he can use the restroom in the plane, then he should do that. Right? This is a scenario where he can't, for example, like he's on a bus or something, all right, or on a train where there's no, I guess, restroom. Another scenario, if a woman is single and she fears that if she leaves her house to search the water, there are men that might harm her and hurt her honor. In that case, it is haram for her to leave, because she's exposing herself and her honor to danger. And in that case, she does tayammum. Of course, the assumption is that there's no water in the house. Right? Another scenario. I'm giving you the reason I'm giving you these scenarios because I want you to understand how the fuqaha, they create ease, all right? They don't want to make things difficult for people, right? If the price of water skyrockets, right? And you can't buy this water, right? Or it's difficult for you to buy this water. In that case, you're allowed to do tayammum. Okay? Any questions? Yes.
So, I mean, for this past hurricane, I didn't have water for 2 weeks, but I had like a pack of water. So I went ahead and, well, I don't know, I didn't do it down correctly because I didn't have dirt either. But should I have reserved like a bottle or something for wudu?
If you were able to, yeah. If you could reserve water from that pack of water.
And then what is pure dirt? Because,
Where does it say that?
or like, it's, but you said damn, it has to be like from pure dirt.
I'll get to that, inshallah, yeah. I'll tell you, inshallah. Okay?
Can't find dirt in one. Like you're on a bus.
And-
That's not stopping. And there's no water to do.
So this mas'ala is called faqid al-tahurain. Alright? The Hanbali madhab says that if a person cannot find water and he cannot find dirt at this point and the time of salah has come, then what he does is that he prays as he is, even if he's not in a state of purity. Okay? And when he prays, he says the bare minimum in the prayer. And this goes back to a very important rule in fiqh. إِذَا ضَاقَ الْأَمْرُ اتَّسَعَ. When things become difficult, the rules in the Sharia become easy. And the more difficult things become, the easier the rules become. وَإِذَا اتَّسَعَ. And when ease is, available for people, when things are really easy for people, ضَاقَ. Right? then the rulings in the Sharia, they become strict. Right? It shows you the flexibility in the Sharia. Right? It's not rigid. It's not something that's only meant to apply one scenario fits all. That's it. You can't do anything. And I mentioned to you the example that if a person cannot pray standing up, he sits down. If he cannot sit down, he lies down. If he cannot lie down, right, he prays on his with his eyes. If he cannot pray with his eyes, he prays in his heart. Right? The more difficult things become, the easier the rulings they become. All right? But at the same time, the same applies that if a person can stand up and he sits down, then his prayer is invalid. I think Abdullah mentioned this also, right? If a person can stand up for the prayer, as unfortunately we see, some people do, is that they can stand up for the prayer, right? But they sit down. At that point, it's not correct. Right? He has to stand up, and when he cannot sit down, when he cannot stand up or go into ruku', then he sits down. Clear? Same. The second thing is the time for the prayer starting. Okay, we mentioned that the condition for wudu, based on the first opinion, is that tayammum makes something eligible, or someone eligible to perform an act of worship, so the time of the prayer has to start. Every single prayer. And this is according to the majority of scholars, right? Abu Hanifa's qawl is that once you do tayammum, keep praying, right? What are the intentions that a person can make? What a person does tayammum from, or I should say for actually over here, what a person does tayammum for. The first thing he can do tayammum for is major hadith. In major hadith, does he have to observe muwala? No, he does not. The second is minor hadith. And the third one is impurity on the body. This is exclusive to the Hanbali madhab. Right? They say if you have an impurity on your body, right, such as a person has urine on his foot, right, he does tayammum for this urine also.
His foot?
He cannot remove it.
Yeah.
All right. So, for example, it's how should I say? It's jamid, right? It's like it's dried,
Yeah.
right? At that point, he can't remove it. If he's able to remove it with water, like he only has enough water to remove it, right? Or do wudu. At that point, he removes the impurity. That takes precedence, and then he does tayammum. But we're talking about in a scenario where he's not able to remove the impurity from his body. He does tayammum for the impurity on his body, and then he does tayammum for the act of worship that he's going to do.
So when you're doing a tayammum on the impurity of the body, do you do it on a specific body part? Or?
No. You do tayammum as you normally would. How do we do tayammum? Did I go over the sifa? Okay, first we make the intention, right? Then we say Bismillah. Okay. Then you hit the ground. Darbatan wahidatan, right? I don't think I went over this. I got lost in the niyyah. Right? You hit the ground, right? One time. Okay? And when you hit the ground, there has to be some dust that is that's on your hand. You blow off the excess dust. Right? One second. Okay, he hits the ground, right? He blows off the excess dust. There still has to be some dust clinging to his hands, right? And he wipes his face, the entirety of his face, and then he wipes his back of his right arm, with his left, back of his right hand with his left, right? And then back of the left with the right. That's it. That's tayammum. Just the wrist down.
Back of the right hand with the left wrist.
Yes. Muscle like this. Sorry, this is your right hand. Wipe it like this, right? And then left hand, wipe it like this. That's it. Yes.
You mentioned the airport scenario, but most of the time there is no dust inside the airport unless you are missing the flight. But you said that you can perform the tayammum if you're afraid that you won't have enough time to make the wudu. So how do you do the tayammum?
Just in the
Pray as you
carry
are.
them.
Huh?
Like, would you pray as you are?
They're not.
No, so in this scenario, like the sister asked, most planes, or I would say planes nowadays, they have bathrooms, right? So you can just go to the bathroom, right, and pray. Bathroom and do wudu and then pray on the plane.
But this ruling they gave this.
So the Hanbali madhab and the majority of scholars, they don't allow tayammum unless there is with dirt that has dust on it. The Hanafi madhab, and this is a riwayah in the Hanbali madhab too, I believe, that you can perform anything that's from the face of the earth, even if it doesn't have dust on it. All right. So the condition they make is that as long as this object it can't be burned and turned into ashes. So you could hit your foot on, you could hit your hands on rock, on marble. They allow it, right? So their opinion is very practical for who? For people in hospitals who can't get up and leave, right? Or who can't move, right? For them, they just hit their hands on the marble, right? And they do the tayammum as they normally would.
You said the object can't be burned or what?
That's according to the Hanafi madhab, right? So the Hanafis say that you can do anything, you can do tayammum with anything that's from the surface of the earth, right? So that includes rocks, that includes marble, that includes sand, that includes dirt, right? That includes mud, all of these things, right? So the dabit or the criteria they gave that the object, it can't be burned, all right? If it can be burned, then you can't do tayammum with that.
Can you go out in the grass?
Yes, from what I understand, yes.
Even if the grass can be burned, but because of the dust under it, I guess.
I will double check on that. Yeah, I'll double check on that. So the Hanafi qawl is a bit easier.
So
In fact, the Hanafi madhab says that if you're praying Eid and janazah, right? And you're in the masjid, right? And you know that your wudu breaks, and you know that if you have to go all the way to the bathroom, right, do wudu and come back, you're going to miss the Eid prayer or the janazah prayer. At that point, you can just hit your hands on the marble, do your tayammum and pray. Right? So this is practical for where? When you're in the masjid in Makkah. Right?
And that's the only one that
The Hanafis, from what I know, yes.
When you're saying wipe the face takes the place of washing the face, right?
Yes.
And then wiping the hands takes the place of washing the arm or the hand.
No, only the hand. They say only the hand because of the hadith of Amr ibn al-As, or Ammar, sorry, the Prophet ﷺ only wiped all the hands.
But doesn't that, if you do order, if you're doing for wudu purposes, right, and you don't have water, you usually do Bismillah, you wash your hands, then you go into washing your face.
The wiping the hands is supposed to be a replacement for wiping the arms.
That's what I'm
Yes. So wiping the arms comes after
washing the face.
washing the face. Right?
You don't have to do this whole.
No, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says regarding the arms in wudu, وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. Right? That's not for tayammum. Right, to your elbows.
Does it have to be visible dust? Like, I mean, I could touch the wall and I'm sure there's dust on it.
No, that's not allowed. Okay, that's not allowed. It has to be dirt. It has to be dust that you can, if you were to do it, you'd see dust. Yeah.
You have to keep some under your hands. You can't just blow it.
It's said that Imam Ahmad liked it, that someone would keep dust with him, just in case a haja or need comes where he has to use tayammum. Alright?
So that being said, so while I was in my house and I didn't have water, I had like my vacuum cleaner that has dust in it, but that's not actually like
I don't.
dust.
But that's not dirt though.
Okay.
Yeah. It's dust that has to be from the dirt. Yeah. So, any questions so far? So, what are the things that a person should do tayammum for? Number one is obligatory prayers, and number two are voluntary prayers. Okay? Number one is obligatory prayers, and number two are voluntary prayers. Okay? So according to the Hanbali madhab, if a person makes an intention to be eligible to perform an obligatory prayer, he can perform nafil prayer. But he can't do the opposite, because they say the nafil is at a lower rutbah, or a lower level than the obligatory. According to Abu Hanifa, you do it, you pray what you want. Right? Rahimahullah. Tayammum is done with pure dirt that has dust on it. Okay? The sister asked, what do you mean by pure? Pure over here means that there's no najasa, no impurity on the dirt. The invalidators of tayammum. Invalidator, number one invalidator. Can you guys see that? I'm going to have to use, we have a plug here. I'm just going to get the charger from my laptop, because my laptop's battery is about to die. The first thing is finding water. Okay? Finding water has two scenarios. The first scenario is you find the water during the prayer. In that case, the prayer is invalid. The second scenario is you find the water after the prayer has finished. In that case, your prayer is valid, but you have to redo the thing. Got it? Two scenarios. First scenario is if you find the water while someone is praying. In that case, the tayammum is invalid and the prayer is invalid. Okay?
How can you find water while you're praying?
Like he sees water while he's praying.
You shouldn't be seeing anything else while praying.
Maybe someone brings it in front of him, a water bottle or something. Right?
It starts raining.
It starts what? It starts raining. Very good example, yes. It starts raining. In that case, his prayer is invalid and his tayammum is invalid. Okay? The second scenario is that if he finds water after the prayer has already finished. In that case, his tayammum is invalid, but his prayer is valid. He doesn't have to repeat his prayer. The second is when the time ends. And we mentioned this is based on the opinion that tayammum makes you eligible to pray a certain prayer. And finally, the last is those things that nullify a person's wudu. Like if you did tayammum for dhuhr, when the time of dhuhr finishes, you have to redo your tayammum for asr. Okay? Here? Clarify the ruling of tayammum in the following scenarios. Is it valid or invalid? He did tayammum after answering the call of nature, but did not do the actions in order nor with muwala. Valid? Valid?
Yeah.
Why?
Ghusl, right? In ghusl you don't need
Answering the call of nature?
A call of nature.
No.
Yeah.
Invalid.
Invalid.
No. Wait, why is it invalid?
Because he's doing tayammum for what? For wudu or ghusl?
It's his intention. He can make it to remove all impurities, and then it's valid.
But he did answer the call of nature.
Yeah, but
He's not in the state of janaba. He's not in a state of major impurity aslan. So he can only do tayammum to remove the minor impurity because he answered the call of nature.
But if you are not in janaba, you cannot make the intention that
No, you cannot. How? If you're not in janaba, how can you make the intention to remove janaba?
you can say you can make the intention to remove all impurities. So that one.
You're not even in the impurity. That impurity doesn't apply to you though. See?
That's the question I asked last time.
Right? If the impurity doesn't apply to you, you cannot remove that impurity. Right?
Okay.
So that's the same way, like, ghusl doesn't count as wudu unless you're removing a major hadath, right?
No, ghusl doesn't count as wudu unless you make the niyyah for ghusl to count as both.
Oh.
Ghusl has that exception to it. Alright? Because it's a major. The major takes care of the minor. But the minor can't take care of the major because that's why it's called major and minor, right? There are different levels.
Tayammum is a replacement for both ghusl and wudu.
Very good. Tayammum is a replacement for both, but only when it applies. Not when it's not applicable. Alright? Tayammum is also a replacement for, we mentioned the third thing you can do tayammum for is what? If you have an impurity on your body. If your body is pure, how can you do it to tayammum for this? Right? It doesn't apply. The scenario doesn't apply.
Sorry, the ghusl thing, so if you were just trying to make wudu, you weren't trying to remove a major hadath, then ghusl, you could still make the intention for wudu?
You could, but that wudu will not count.
Okay.
You can't pray without wudu or anything.
Right. Okay.
Right? You can't do anything without wudu.
So if you do have an impurity on you, you do tayammum to remove that. Then do you do tayammum again for wudu? So you do two tayammums of the same.
Yes.
Okay.
He did tayammum, but he was able to use water for wudu. Not valid. He did tayammum for major hadath without doing the action in order and without mu'ala. Valid?
Yeah.
Mashallah. He did tayammum with sand that does not have any dust on it.
According to the
Valid. Hanaf.
No, let's stick to the Hanbali, right?
Invalid.
Invalid. Okay. He did tayammum but forgot to say Bismillah in the beginning.
Valid.
Invalid? Invalid?
Well,
Valid. He forgot. Right? The wajibat, remember those things, if you leave them out unintentionally, it's okay. The pillars are those things, if you leave it intentionally or unintentionally, it's invalid.
What if he forgets but remembers while he's doing the actions?
He says Bismillah and continues.
Okay.
Right? Just like in wudu.
There, on the earlier question, it said if you are removing a major hadath and you're doing tayammum and mu'ala and in order is not necessary, but after you do that, you pray and remember the whole ring situation. And after you prayed, you removed it, and you notice that.
That's fine, because tayammum doesn't apply. You don't have to do isti'ab. Right?
Oh, yeah, right.
You don't have to wash every single body part. Right?
Yeah.
It just has to touch even the back of your cuff, right? You're going to touch what normally is, even your face. Right? You don't have to touch and do the head, you don't have to do the feet, you don't have to do the arms, any of these things. He did tayammum for Maghrib prayer before the sunset. Why is it invalid?
because you have to do it for each prayer.
When the time of the prayer starts, right? He did tayammum, but then he forgot afterwards that he forgot. But then he remembered afterwards that he forgot to wipe one of his hands.
Just wipe one of his hands out. He don't wanna. Invalid.
It's invalid. All right. Let's say he's doing tayammum for wudu. as for minor hadith. Invalid or valid?
Valid.
Invalid, right? Because muwala is a condition, right? And tartib is a condition. If he's doing tayammum for major impurity,
No.
it's okay. He just goes back and wipes the hand,
Yeah.
right?
So,
Is it clear, or am I going too fast, or the sharh is not clear, the explanation is not
If you
clear?
remove the major impurity and forgot to wipe over one of the hands, so you did, let's say the right hand, forgot the left hand, right?
Yeah.
And then after doing that, you prayed.
No, you can't pray.
You can't pray from a major hadith, remove a major hadith with tayammum.
No, you can pray. Yes, you can pray, but if you forgot to wipe one of your hands, it doesn't count, because you didn't do the complete tayammum.
Yeah, but I mean, you didn't know.
Even if you didn't know, because you left out a pillar.
So that's
Remember?
what I'm saying. Even though there's muwala, meaning you can come back and just.
You can
do
come
one
back
hand.
and do it if you remember it, yeah, and then you can pray. All right, but if you left it out and you prayed and then you remember, no, you have to go back and do tayammum, and then you have, or just wipe it, and then you have to pray.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's do one more slide and then we'll take a little break, inshallah. The purification from impurities. Okay. The first point is that purification with impurities can only happen with al-ma'u tahur, pure water. Okay, and what are the type of impurities? Okay, what are type of? No, those are states of impurity. What are types of impurities? The first one is the urine and feces of animals that are not eaten. Any animal which is impermissible to eat, right? It is the urine and the feces of that animal is najis, is impure. So animals that are allowed to be eaten, such as sheep or goats or cows, right? Beef, chicken, pigeons. The animal and the feces of these animals are, the urine and the feces of these animals are pure. So if a pigeon flies over your head and some droppings fall on your clothes, can you pray without washing them?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
you can pray. You can pray on with that. You can eat a pigeon. How do we know an animal is permissible to eat or not? Based on certain textual proofs. Okay, we don't just randomly decide. Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ said, "Kullu dhi nabin min as-siba'i fa'akluhu haram." He said that every single predator that has fangs and hunts with these fangs, right, is impermissible to eat it. So that includes a vast majority of cats, right? All cats, I would say. Lions, cheetahs, jaguars, leopards, sabers, right? Mountain cats, even a domestic cat, impermissible to eat. A house cat, right? And the Prophet ﷺ said, وَكُلِّ ذِي مِخْلَبٍ مِنَ الطَّيْرِ, and every single bird that hunts with its talons, it's impermissible to eat. Eagles, hawks, with its talons. Yeah. Eagles, hawks, what are some other types of birds? Falcons, owls, very good. Crows, right? Even though crows are scavengers, and there's another reason why crows are good, right? So these animals, they're not permissible to eat. Okay, so how do we decide an animal is permissible to eat or not? Based on textual evidences. Okay, we can't just randomly decide. The Prophet ﷺ forbade the meat of a domesticated donkey, right? Donkeys, mules, they're not permissible to eat. Pigs are not permissible to eat. Other animals such as horses, right? They're permissible to eat, right? There's a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ, in which, who was it? Asma bint Abi Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anha, نحرنا فرسا بعهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فأكلناه. She said that we slaughtered a horse during the time of the Prophet ﷺ and we ate it, right? Did the Prophet ﷺ ever eat chicken? No? عن أبي موسى الأشعري رضي الله عنه قال رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يأكل دجاجا. He said, I saw the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم eating chicken. It's in Bukhari and Muslim.
So I have a question. It's kind of a little bit about food, but
Yes.
so like according to Imam Hanifa, there's like not all seafood is permissible, but I've heard that other scholars say it's not. Is there a difference?
So it goes back to what they classify as fish or not. Okay? If it's classified as fish, okay, then it's permissible to eat. So for example, according to what I know about the Hanafi madhab, shrimp is not classified as fish. So according to the Hanafi madhab, and crabs are not classified as fish, right? So they're not permissible to eat according to the Hanafi madhab, right? According to other madhahib, such as the Hanbali madhab, وَيَحِلُّ كُلُّ مَا فِي الْبَحْرِ غَيْرَ ضِفْلَعٍ وَحَيَّةٍ وَتِمْسَاحٍ. They say that everything in the sea is permissible to eat except for three things: a frog, an alligator, and a snake. These things are not permissible. Anything else in the sea is permissible for you to consume, right? Even if it comes out dead, and it's from the sea, right? Not it's from the land and it goes in the sea. You clarified this, I remember. Right?
So is it simple to follow different opinions?
What's your opinion on that?
It's your, as a muqallid, we mentioned this earlier, as a muqallid, someone that is not a scholar, right? You are allowed to follow an opinion of a different madhab. Although it is better to stick to one madhab. I mentioned this earlier. It's better to stick to one madhab just for the purpose of maintaining consistency in your life. Okay? However, if you want to follow another madhab, it is permissible, as long as you do not, do it simply out of desires, number one, and you don't flip-flop. Okay? Between madhab. Yes,
So-
she had a question
Oh,
first.
go ahead, sorry.
Well, so does it apply to categories of animals in general? So you can't eat the meat of an animal that you ride on. So then you can eat a horse, like you said, but then if you've ridden on that horse,
No, I don't know.
so that's just categories in
Yeah,
general.
it's category. It doesn't matter if you ride on it or not.
Okay.
Because camels they used to ride on and they used to eat too.
Oh.
Yeah, it's fine.
So camels, if you eat a camel, you have to do wudu.
Yes,
From
according to the
one-
Hanbali madhab,
Hanbali
yes.
madhab.
Yes.
So does that mean if the urine and feces of the camel
It is considered tahir.
is still considered?
If it gets on your clothes, right, it's considered tahir, it's considered pure. Alright? However, does that mean you should let it stay on your clothes? No.
No.
Alright, wipe it off, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright? We're simply talking about remember, when we talk about fiqh, we're talking about from a technical perspective. Right? Simply, if someone comes and asks you, right, like someone came and asked me yesterday, my wife, she has high blood pressure in Ramadan, and she had to take medication, which is probably, I didn't ask them the type of medication, it's probably going to be a pill, right? Well, does it break her fast or not? I was like, yes, it breaks her fast, and she will have to make up those 2 days, right? That's simply, you're talking about technicalities, right? The bare minimum, right? And always remember, dear brothers and sisters, that there's a difference between fatwa and taqwa. There's two different things, right? Fatwa is the bare minimum. Taqwa is something that is at a higher level. Okay? So urine and feces of animals that are not eaten. Okay, this is the first type of impurity. The second is that mayta. Okay? And we define mayta as an animal that dies without being slaughtered, according to Islamic guidelines, or an animal that is forbidden to eat aslan, such as pig. However, for a human being, right, he's not mayta, but we just put him over here, just to clarify the scenario of a human being. Okay, human beings, there are 3 exceptions to this rule. Human beings, they're not animals in that sense, right? They're not mayta. I'm not referring to them as that, but simply to put them on the slide. Animals that don't have flowing blood, such as flies, ticks, fleas, beetles, or how would you say it? They have like a hard shell, like small insects, bugs. All right, they don't have flowing blood. And dead animals from the sea, there are exceptions to this second category, and they are not impure; they are pure. The Prophet ﷺ said that "Innal Muslima la yanjus." A Muslim, he never becomes najis. right? حَيًّا وَلَا مَيِّتًا, regardless of whether he is alive or whether he is passed away. And the proof that animals that don't have flowing blood, that they are not impure, is the hadith that all of you have heard, in which the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا وَقَعَ الذُّبَابُ فِي إِنَاءِ أَحَدِكُمْ, if a fly falls in one of your vessels or utensils, what should he do? He should dip it, right? Had it been najis, would he have ordered us to dip it? No. Right?
Dip what? Can you say that?
The Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا وَقَعَ الذُّبَابُ فِي إِنَاءِ أَحَدِكُمْ فَلْيَغْمِسْهُ, right? That if a fly falls in a utensil that you have that has some type of liquid inside of it, then dip it before taking and throwing it out. Alright? Because he said, because in one of its wings is a disease and in the other wing is a cure for that disease. And this is an ilm al-ghayb, right, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? The point of evidence from the hadith is that had it been impure, the Prophet ﷺ would not have allowed us to dip it. In fact, he would have ordered us to throw the fly out and all of the contents of the utensil out. Clear?
If the fly is inside the vessel, what are you doing?
The fly itself.
Dip it before taking it out.
Dip it, yeah. Dip inside of the water before taking it out. ميتة البحر, and dead animals from the sea. The Prophet ﷺ said, أُحِلَّتْ لَنَا مَيْتَتَانِ وَدَمَانِ, right? There are two dead animals that are permissible for us to eat. Does anyone remember the rest of the hadith? No? No. The maytatan is, one of them was fish and the other one was al-jarad, locusts. Right? Made that face like it's so disgusting.
Well, hold on.
For some people it's a delicacy, yeah.
Which animal?
It's a delicacy, yeah.
Which animal?
Locust.
Like cricket?
It's bigger than a cricket.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
heard people tell me it tastes good.
Huh?
I've never tried it.
I never tried it either. I don't
That's
plan on
not-
trying it
not in
either.
the Hanafi method, right?
Huh?
Not in the Hanafi method. Not allowed in the Hanafi method, locusts?
I don't know. From what I know, that it would be allowed because of the hadith. What was not allowed, what we mentioned earlier, was the types, whether something would be classified as a fish or not. Right?
So an octopus would not be allowed in Africa.
An octopus? I don't know. I'll have to go back to their books and see. Do they classify?
I don't think they classify it as a fish.
Probably
Is it
not.
classified as a predator?
Octopus? From what I know, the Hanbalis, they don't make a difference whether it's a predator or not.
At least not-
Right? Except for the alligator.
How about the shark?
Even the shark, they say it's okay.
There's so much food in it. Go for that.
What's the reasoning for alligator? Is that specific?
Because it says it's also a land animal.
So anything that's a land animal
And it hunts at the same time. And it has dhunab. It has fangs. Right?
Crocodile.
And frog?
Frog is... there's a hadith in which the Prophet sallallahu عن عبد الرحمن بن عثمان القرشي أن طبيبا سأل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن الضفدع يجعلها في دواء فنهى عن قتلها. Right? رواه أحمد وصححه الحاكم. Right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a man came to him that was a doctor and asked him, can you allow me to kill frog so I can use it as a medicine? I can take some of its parts and use it as a medicine. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam نهى عن قتلها. He forbade killing it.
So what about like medicines? We don't really know what capsule or pill, like all the ingredients of it. Where does it take out?
Avoid it. I mean, yeah. If you don't know the ingredients. By the way, this goes into a different topic of using alcohol in medicines, whether it's allowed or not. That's
Well, yeah, that's a different one. But like, just whatever his favorite, like animal food, if we want to know.
that also goes into a topic whether does the original material change or not. Masalat al-istihala, right? So the Hanbalis, they say that it doesn't change, and they don't view istihala as making something impure as pure, whereas the Hanafis, they do. Okay, a liquor is the next one. And why did I say liquor and not wine? Does anyone know the difference? Or beer, or rum?
Oh, because of the ingredients. So wine is from grapes, right? And liquor, beer is from wheat, barley, fermented. So it's
Very good.
basically the ingredients.
What about cider and
I'm
rum?
not supposed to know this stuff, but
No, we're supposed to
No,
know
it's-
it. We have to know it. We have to know it. What about rum and what is it called?
Vodka.
Gin?
Gin.
Gin and cider and
A different percentage of alcohol.
It's different fruits.
so liquor is a general name that refers to any fermented product that is made from vegetables, fruits, or grains. Okay, so any one of these three things. So I think cider is made from apples. Rum is made from, I can't remember what exactly, but it's also one of these three categories. Wine is made from grapes, right? And then you have products that are made from, like the sister mentioned, wheat, such as beer, whiskey, and all these things. So liquor is an encompassing name that contains all of these products.
So it's all fermented products, like yeast is fermented.
No, it's
It's just a drink, like a-
specifically referring to, number one, an alcoholic drink. All right, that's the first condition, and the second condition, it's drunk. It's used for the purpose of intoxication or for the purpose of, I guess you can drink it, right? That's classified as khamr, regardless of its source. Hanafis, they say khamr only refers to a fermented alcoholic drink that's taken from grapes or from dates. That's it. That's it. They don't classify all these other drinks as alcohol.
What are
As khamr, sorry. Alright?
the
Don't
more-
take this fatwa and
That's what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying this. That's not what I'm saying. Right? That's not what I'm saying. That's not their fatwa. And that's also some of the Hanafis, such as Abu Hanifa rahimahullah and Abu Yusuf. Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani is with the Jumhur, and the fatwa of the madhab is according to Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani, which is just like the majority of scholars. All of these fermented drinks, they're not permissible. But as for their fatwa, they consider only these two to be khamr. As for the other drinks that are made from different sources, such as cider, such as something made from honey, all right, something made from whiskey or beer, right? Anyone who drinks it for the purpose of intoxication is not permissible for him. Or merrymaking or lahu or any of these things is not permissible. Okay? Let's not open this door. Because this is one of those topics that I need to do more research onto. All right? Because I'm trying to understand the Hanafi qawl on this.
Just one question. He said if you have a glass of water, somebody else is like they do cheers, right? And you click it, it becomes khamr at that point. You should keep it. You should not drink it. Is that true or no?
What do you mean?
So you have a glass of water,
Yeah.
and like before drinking alcohol, they tap the glasses, right? People, and they say cheers.
Yeah.
If somebody taps it with you, and you have water,
Yeah.
like you should not drink it because
I mentioned that if you're intending to drink it as alcohol,
even
then
if it's water.
even if it's water, then you're sinful
Okay.
because of your takhayyulat, because of your imagination of how you're drinking this,
Mm.
right? Even if it's water at that point, right? Because of what you're intending to do,
Mm.
right? But if it's water, then ma fi ishkal. It's just water. There's no problem. Vomit is another thing that is impure. Okay. Another thing that is impure is blood, pus, and sadid. Alright? Blood is impure according to all four madhahib. Pus is called qayh. Alright? And pus refers to qayh refers to pus that doesn't have blood mixed inside of it. It's like secretion. Like when you pop a pimple, right? If the secretion comes out and it has blood mixed inside of it, traces of blood, then it's called sadid at that point, which is, I italicized it. Right? Sadid. If a little bit of blood, pus, or sadid gets on one's clothes, it's overlooked. Meaning you can still pray with that. It's okay. What is considered a little bit? You as a person decide. Right? Is it a lot or is it a little? So, and when if a person pops a pimple, all right, if the secretion that comes out doesn't have any mixture of blood, that's the definition of pus. In Arabic, it's called qayh. Want me to write it? It's called qayh. Okay, qayh.
That's Arabic for pus.
Yes. And then sadid is when the secretion comes out and there's traces of blood mixed inside of it. Okay. What about saliva? Is it pure or impure?
Pure.
Pure. Very good. Pre-seminal or prosthetic fluid. That's some translation. This is what I found, so I just wrote the translation. Pre-seminal fluid refers to when a person is aroused, and this fluid that comes out, that refers to the pre-seminal fluid. That is called madhi in English, in Arabic. Okay? So you have three things. You have three things, all of them that are important to understand. Al-mani, al-madhi, al-wadi. There are three things. Mani, clear?
What are they? What is al-mani?
Okay. Mani is semen. Okay? I don't even know how to translate this one. Wadi. So I'll just explain it once we get to it, inshallah. Mani is considered semen. It's considered pure, according to the Hanbali and the Shafi'i madhab. Hanafi and Maliki say it's najis. So if a person gets mani on his clothes, right, he can technically pray with that, as long as there's no wadi and mani, right?
It's pure according to Hanafi
The Hanbali and the Shafi'i. The madhi is pre-seminal fluid. Fluid that comes out when a person is aroused, right? That is called al-madhi. Okay? And that is najis, impure. And that requires that a person does wudu when it comes out, when he needs to pray. Okay? And along with wudu, the Prophet ﷺ said that the man should wash the entirety of his private part. Okay? Mani can require wudu or ghusl, depending on how it comes out. Remember we mentioned this earlier, right? If it comes out due to sickness or some reason, it can just require wudu. If it comes out as it normally does, then it requires ghusl. And wadi is something that resembles mani. It comes out sometimes after a person urinates. Alright? Like the whiteness. So, somewhat of a white liquid that comes out after a person urinates. Okay? It is also impure because it has a strong possibility of being mixed with urine. And it requires wudu only.
So did you do ghusl for al-madi?
Madi? No. Madi you don't have to do ghusl for.
Which one do you do ghusl?
Mani. Semen.
Why is it considered pure?
Yeah.
Huh?
Why is it considered pure?
Why should we consider it impure?
Because you have to make wudu or ghusl.
There's a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ, in which Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ, she would sometimes tahukku al-mani an thawbihi, right? She would scrape off the dried money from the thawb, right? Or from his garment, and then he would go out and pray with this. The fuqaha, they derived from this that had it been impure, he wouldn't have prayed in that garment. So the asl of it is pure. The Shafi'iyya, they also, say that the asl of it is pure, right? Human being was made for something pure. Yes.
Are those terms specific to men, or are there the terms still used for women?
They also use the term for women. Yes. Clear? Should I erase this? No? So, madhi and wadi, right? A ruling that's associated with these is that they have to, if they get on one's clothes, the clothes have to be cleaned from that area. However, there is an opinion in the Hanbali madhab that a little bit of pre-seminal fluid and wadi is overlooked, just like blood. Question here,
Yeah. You can't differentiate between al-madi and mani, can you?
yes, you can. Mani has a very mani. They say the fuqaha mentioned that mani has a certain type of scent to it also. Madi does not. It doesn't have that scent. Right? Mani, they say it's white, and they say this is somewhat of a clearish liquid.
But when you get many, you always does that come with the madi?
Yeah, but I mean, you're right. It could.
I mean,
And you're right. This comes first usually, and then this comes. Okay. So this is why they say that if a person just has this and he doesn't have this, then he only has to do wudu at that point. But if this ends up coming out as it normally should, then it requires ghusl at that point.
So which one did you say has a smell?
This
associated?
money has a distinct smell to it. Erase it. Erase it. No, خلاص. Erase it. So if a person has a wet dream at night, right, and he wakes up, he does ghusl, but those are the only garments he can pray in, and he wasn't able to wash them. Can he pray in them? Yes, you can pray in them. Right? And this is where your question comes. It's possible that madi didn't come in that scenario.
yes.
It's possible. Possible. Madi didn't come. The next one is wadi, which I just mentioned. Okay. Method of removing impurities. The first one is, the method is of different types. The first method is to wash it 7 times, along with one of the washings being dirt. Okay, and they say that this refers to the impurity of a dog or the impurity of a pig. Okay, and this is based on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he said, "Tuhuru ina'i ahadikum." Tuhuru or tahuru? Why?
Substance. Yeah.
Very good. Tuhuru inayah, the act of purifying one of your vessels. Right? See the importance of lugha? The importance of the language? Tuhuru inayah hadikum, the act of purifying of one of your vessels. إِذَا وَلَغَ الْكَلْبُ فِيهِ, if a dog licks inside of a vessel or a utensil, right? أن يغسله سبع مرات أن يغسله سبع مرات أولاهن بالتراب أو أولهن بالتراب, is that he should wash it 7 times, and one of these washings should be with dirt. It's authentic hadith narrated in Bukhari and Muslim. And if a dog licks the inside of a utensil, not just the inside, any utensil. In fact, the fuqaha, they say that if you licks your thawb, or licks your hand, right, or licks your face, right, and yaghsilahu sab'a marratin ulahunna bit-turab, should wash it 7 times. One of them being with dirt. However, they say that dirt, anything else can take the place of dirt. So, for example, if you have a soap, right, or some type of cleanser, right, it can take the place of dirt. And the same thing they say for pig, because they say, إذا ثبت الحكم في قضية الكلب فالخنزير من باب أولى. Right? If the hukm or the ruling is established for a dog, then how do you say min bab awla in English?
So primarily,
Then
the
stronger argument is made for the pig. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَإِنَّهُ رِجْسٌ, that it is something that is impure. Rijs.
So is this only when it licks it? Like if a dog just goes past
Yes.
you and touches your clothes?
Yes, yes. Only when it licks it. Okay? The impurity of a dog, the Hanbali and the Shafi'i say that the entirety of it is impure. The Hanafi madhab says that it's only the saliva of a dog that is impure. The rest of the dog is pure. The second type of removing impurity is with water only. Okay, and over here you have 3 types. Number 1, it says sprinkle here, but I don't know, I couldn't find a really good translation from nadh. Right? Nadh basically means that you take a piece of the cloth and you dampen it with water. Alright, so I guess you could say you sprinkle it until it becomes damp with water. Alright? Not until the water flows down, all right, or drips from the garment. It just becomes damp. And this is based on a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, urine of a baby boy that cannot eat solid food, or I should say over here actually, can we see the mouse? Yeah. That does not eat solid food with desire. Like you have to force feed it solid food. Okay? Meaning it's actually, when they say it doesn't eat solid food with desire, what they're trying to say is up to a certain age limit. And that differs from baby to baby. Right? And why is it a baby boy as opposed to a baby girl? Simply because there's no reason why the boy is, no one can come and argue the boy is preferred over the girl. No. That's not the argument made over here, and that's not acceptable. Alright? In fact, Imam Shafi'i said that I can find a difference why it's a boy and it's a girl. I don't know why. Right? So the fuqaha, they said simply because the hadith came in regards to a boy, that's why we take it. Right? There's some fuqaha, they tried to mention reasons, right? But it's best to just say that the hadith came in regard to a boy, so we just stop where the hadith said. Right?
So
and there's no particular reason the boy is mentioned over there.
Urine of baby girl's man?
No, a urine of a baby girl has to be washed. Yeah, it has to be washed, and we'll get to that. Alright. One washing only is the second type of water, purification with water, and that's impurity on the earth. Right? So for example, when we say earth, we don't say marble or a solid surface. We mean like dirt. Alright? You keep on pouring water on it until the impurity, it dissipates. Right? It dilutes to a great extent if the impurity is a liquid, or if the impurity is a solid, then it's removed somehow. Okay? And this is based on the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ, it's mentioned that a man came into the masjid and he peed inside of the masjid. And the Prophet what did the Sahaba do? They wanted to beat him up. It's not the place to, relieve yourself, answer the call of nature. And so the Prophet ﷺ, what did he say?
Let him finish.
Let him finish. Right? Let him finish. It's the hikmah. Because they say if you disturb him with this, some of the fuqaha, they mention if you disturb him with this point, he's going to spread the impurity even more. Right? And so after he finished, the Prophet ﷺ called him and he said to him that the masajid are meant for remembering Allah. Right? And they're not as a place to relieve yourself. So in some narrations it comes that the man, he said that I never saw a teacher like the Prophet ﷺ. And he said, oh Allah, have mercy on me and Muhammad and no one else. Right? So this is, this is from the wisdom we learn from the noble manners of the Prophet ﷺ. And when they say that you should impurity on the earth, you have to keep pouring a lot of water on it until the physical impurity is removed, or if it's a liquid, it dilutes to a great extent that no color or smell of it remains. Okay? Finally, the last type of washing with water is 7 washings. Anything besides those impurities that have been previously mentioned, such as impurity on the earth, or sprinkling, which should be dampening, I should say. 7 washings in the impurity of a dog and pig with dirt. So the last one is 7 washings, right? 7 washings is a very famous opinion, or sort of relied upon opinion in the Hanbali madhab. Another opinion is that it should be only 3 times. Okay?
You have to count 7, minimum
Yes,
7.
count 7. So if a person gets a drop of urine, right, on his, on his jeans, and he knows where that drop is, he has to wash that area, dry it. That's 1 time. Do it 7 times. 7 times is the bare minimum. It's just that even if he knows it goes away.
So putting in the washing machine won't count because it dries only once.
You said dry, or you just said squeeze it out?
Squeeze it out. Yeah. So usually a washing machine has many cycles.
But the dryer is different.
Huh?
You have to take it out from the wash and put it in the dryer.
No, the cycle in this point it counts as
Okay.
washing. And there's another opinion that 3 times. This is another famous opinion in the madhab. Another opinion is there's no, set amount, right? It's just until it's completely clean and you know it's clean. It's better, huh? So let me throw a masala at you. Water that's less than qullatayn. If impurity touches it, what happens to this water?
It's no longer.
So if a person has jeans and a drop of urine on it, and it touches this water inside of the washing machine,
Put 51 gallons of water there.
no washing machine takes that much.
That's why you do it many times.
Every time it's impure. Because they say the amount of water you have to add has to be more than 51 gallons
At one time.
at one time.
Change the gene.
You see the issue?
But it didn't start off as impure, right? It was, you cleaned with it first already.
What do you mean?
Like the water was pure,
Yeah.
and it was used to clean something, so then it's not tahir anymore, but is it?
It's najis because impurity touched it, right? So that's the difficulty with that qawl. But then some of them, they respond and say that You put the jeans in first, so the water is coming on the impurity, not the impurity is coming on the water. And they go back to the hadith of the Arabi, the person that urinated inside of the masjid, right? They say that the Prophet ﷺ ordered for water to be poured on top of the urine, right? Even though the water that was poured was less than 51 gallons. So the water that was poured, it still removed that impurity, even though it was because of what comes first and what comes afterwards. Right? Okay, 3 wipings as the last type. And we mentioned this already before. When a person wipes himself with toilet paper or whatnot, 3 wipings is the bare minimum. And finally, intention is not a condition in washing away impurities. So before you clean an impurity, you don't have to make an intention that I'm cleaning this impurity. You just wash it away. Because they say it's not necessarily an act of worship. Okay? Oh, we mentioned this. Semen and vaginal fluid are pure. Okay? They clarify the ruling of the items in the following scenarios. Are they pure or impure?
Can you go back?
Go back. Okay. Clarify the ruling of the following items. Are they pure or impure? Cow's urine? Pure. Urine of a baby girl that is 3 years old? Impure. Urine of a baby boy that is 1 day old? Pure?
Still impure. You just have to wash it. It's
Very good. It's still impure, but you just have to dampen it when cleaning it. Right? Urine of a donkey?
If it's your
Impure.
if you have the donkey, if it's your tame donkey, then it's pure.
How is it pure?
He said you should not eat it.
Can you eat a donkey? Are you allowed to Islamically? Prophet ﷺ forbade eating.
Domesticated donkey, he said.
Is there such thing as wild donkey?
Come to India.
Yes, I see what you're talking about. I see what you're saying. Talking about domesticated donkey. Alright, so it's impure. Urine of an adult person? Impure. Urine of sheep? Pure. Dead fly? Pure or impure? Pure. Impure? No, it's pure. It doesn't have flowing blood. Alright? This is the hadith we mentioned. A dead shark? Pure. Living domesticated donkey.
Pure.
The donkey itself.
Oh.
The donkey itself, not the urine. Did we go over this?
It's an animal bigger than a domestic cat that's not eaten.
Yes, an animal bigger than a domestic cat that is not eaten.
We didn't cover it. It was on the slide.
We didn't cover it?
It was on the slide.
Yeah.
Right here. Right here.
Yeah.
Any animal bigger than a domestic cat that is not eaten. Okay?
It's impure.
It's impure. Okay? So any animal that's smaller than a domestic cat, right? It's pure. Even though it's not eaten, such as a
Donkey.
a mouse or a rat.
Donkeys. Small.
Right?
Small.
They're pure while they're alive. Alright? They're pure while they're alive. However, you can't eat them. Right? There's a difference. Be sure to make that distinction between the two. Right? Impure. A house cat, is it pure or impure? Pure. Wine, cider, rum, whiskey, all these things. Depends. What are you taking that out of your phone? No, they're impure. They're impure. Let's just stick to the jumhur. Alright? Stick to the jumhur. Alright? Pre-seminal fluid?
Impure.
Impure. Sheep?
Pure.
Pure. Blood that comes out due to a wound. Anyone else from sister's side? Am I going too fast?
Depend on the quantity.
No, whether it's pure or not. That's whether it's forgiven or not. Impure? Semen? Impure. Dog's urine?
What? Impure.
Impure. Mouse or rat?
Pure.
Pure.
Depends if it's domesticated or not. It is pure?
It's pure. I said
Alive.
it's smaller than a cat. Yeah. Dog saliva?
Impure.
Impure. Clarify the method of removing impurities in the following scenarios. A drop of beer fell on the shirt.
Scrub 7 times.
7 times, very good, without dirt. Remaining drops of urine after entering the call of nature.
Wash them down to like dirt.
Huh?
Wash them down to like dirt.
Yes. That is awesome. 7 times water or 3 wipings if he's using toilet paper. The urine of an adult male on the earth.
Pour a lot of water till it dissipates.
Pour a lot of water, very good. 1 washing. The urine of a domesticated donkey on 1 pants. For example, he's a farmer. 7 times that dirt, very good.
I have a question about the garment that we have answered it earlier. If that's going in a washing machine with other garments,
Yeah.
so all of the other garments are technically soiled with that same impurity?
Let's just take the opinion that, it becomes pure. All right?
After, so even if you have other
So,
garments that were already...
even if you have other garments, all right, are you going to put the detergent in and it's going to purify it? All right? Because if you take that I mentioned the difference. If you take that opinion, right, they argue that, well, the water is coming on top of the pants, right? So it'll purify it, right? The only scenario where it becomes a difficulty is that if the water's already there, then you put the pants inside of it with the urine on it. Right? You see the difference?
Because the water was already impure.
Because the water was there and you put the impurity inside of it. Right? The other scenario is that the pants are there and you're putting the water on top of it.
So it's like adding pure to non-pure.
Very good.
Versus
Yes.
adding
Yes.
non-pure to pure.
Yes. Very good.
So for the sake of how we are living now,
Yeah.
clothing just thrown into the washing machine, that constitutes 7 cycles, like the 7 washing.
I would say, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yes, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. All right. Personally, I take the opinion it doesn't have to be 7. It has to be, maybe 3 or لا يشترط العدد. You don't have to have a certain number of times, as long as you know it turns out clean.
Does menses count in any of this?
We're gonna go over
Okay.
next thing is menses. Dog saliva in the utensil.
7 times with 1 of them.
7 times with dirt. How many more left? A drop of urine fell on one stove while answering the call of nature.
7 times.
7 times that dirt. Very good. Pre-seminal fluid on one's undergarment.
Wash.
7 times that dirt. Very good. Urine of a baby girl on one's clothes.
7 times. Baby girl, 7 times.
Very good. Wash 7 times that dirt. Urine of a 5-year-old young child on the earth. 1 washing. Right? It's on the earth.
Oh, on the
Yeah, 1 washing till it dissipates, so pour a lot
Yes,
of water.
so it dissipates. All right. Feces of a 2-year-old baby boy on one's clothes.
Damn. Sprinkle.
Huh?
sprinkle.
We need a break.
Baby boy, that's right. 2
day-
days. 2
baby
days, like
boy.
2 years.
Huh?
Sprinkle.
Sprinkle.
Species.
Oh.
It's not you.
I see. Sprinkle. Yeah.
So,
7.
halas, let's take a little break and we'll go over these last 3 slides quickly. I feel like we're all tired.
But this is good to know, like, just in case if one is out and about and they know, maybe if they're in a situation whereby they won't get home for hours, or, then like, if you find yourself in this kind of scenario, then you would have to do 7 washings, like, in order to purify whatever your clothing is. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a common
It's an issue. The dog is only an issue if it licks you or if you touch it while it's wet. If it's dry, then it's not a problem, right? And none of the hairs get on you, then it's not an issue.
So the dog always comes and licks you without
Yeah.
you asking for it. So that's the issue.
And I don't know where I learned, but like, dead hair is not just,
It depends on the type of animal it comes from.
no, humans.
No, they're not najis. They're not.
I have a question about the meaning of an animal being impure, like the donkey. So, what does it mean that it's impure? Like, it itself being impure, like if you ride on it or something, what does that mean?
If you ride on it and it sweats,
Mm-hmm.
right, then the sweat gets on you, then you have impurity on your body. All right? Impurity only transfers when it's a liquid. All right? So if you have something that's solid and impure, right, if it doesn't get on your body, then it doesn't transfer. It doesn't make a difference.
So hair is not liquid.
Hair is not liquid, yeah. So if you have, for example, hair of a pig, which the Hanbali madhab says is impure, if you touch that hair, it's fine. If it doesn't get on, you don't have to wash your hands afterwards.
What about the hair of a horse or if it got on your face?
Hair of a horse is pure. Horse is pure.
Something said dog saliva is impure, right?
Dog saliva is impure.
And if it touches the food and you're eating it, it's still impure. That you cannot eat the food.
Of course, you have to throw the food away. The Prophet ﷺ said that if a dog licks inside the utensil, throw away what's inside and then wash it 7 times. One of them with dirt.
But the hunter dogs, the dogs that hunt, they grab the food with their mouth.
So you wash it. You wash it. You clean that area before, right? Of the animal,
Mm-hmm.
right? You clean that part of the meat before you eat it, right? Majority of scholars say that the saliva is impure of a dog. Vast majority. Imam Malik said it's not impure, and this is his dalil.
The hunter dog.
Hunter dog, very good.
Again, like if it's impure, the only difference between the dog is trained, right? Has knowledge to grab it.
I strongly lean towards impure, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, فَلْيُرِقْهُ, let him throw away what's inside the vessel, let him wash it. Why would he tell us to wash it and throw it away if it wasn't impure?
What was Imam Malik's reasoning if
This-
a specific hadith was said?
I don't know how he answered that. I don't know.
Can you explain
It's supposed to be a break, by the way. You guys can go out.
It's supposed to be a break for you too.
I have another class after this. Maryam, same class. Till 9.
One time.
At 6.
What's Maryam?
Where
Maryam, listen.
Oh,
so we have awesome. 5.
Yeah. After Asr, inshallah. Yeah.
the situation whereby a fly drops in your cup of water? You take the opposite wing?
No, so the Prophet ﷺ, again, this is ta'abbudi, right? This is something we just follow the Prophet ﷺ said. That's why we do it, right?
No, I'm asking what
So the
is
Prophet
it?
ﷺ said that if a fly falls, إِذَا وَقَعَ الذُّبَابُ فِي نَحْنِكُمْ فَلْيَغْمِسُّ, right? He said that let him, like the fly is on the surface, let him dip it inside of the water, right? And then throw it out.
So
Right.
that one wing has shifa, other doesn't, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
doesn't seem like we want a break.
So you guys want to continue? We can finish it, inshallah. Continue? Okay, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala sayyidil anbiya wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ala. Okay, now the last topic that we're going to talk about in the chapter of purification, this will end, inshallah. These last 3 slides. Types of blood that exit from a woman according to Islamic law. Okay, now when we're talking simply from the perspective of law, alright? Legislation. We're not talking necessarily from a perspective of a medicinal perspective. Okay, that's doctors. That's their arena, or that's their realm, right? We're talking about simply from the perspective of legislation in Islam. So before we start on this, the first type of blood is menstrual blood. Okay? The dalil, or the evidence, is 4 things. Imam Ahmad said that the topic or the chapter of menstruation revolves around 4 things. The first is the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ. They ask you regarding menstruation, ayah number 222. Okay? The second hadith is the hadith of Fatima bint Abi Hubaysh. She said, she came to the Prophet ﷺ. This hadith is recorded in Muslim. I'll give you these numbers so you can go back and look up these hadith. Okay, because some of these hadith are very long. I'm not going to read all of them now. Alright? The first hadith is the hadith of Fatima bint Abi Hubaysh. Okay? The hadith number is Muslim 333A. She said that I am a woman whose blood keeps flowing. Meaning even after my menstrual cycle ends, the blood keeps coming out. What should I do? So the Prophet, and she said that I'm never purified. Meaning that I'm never stopped bleeding. What should I do? Should I leave the prayer? And so the Prophet ﷺ told her, no, don't leave the prayer. Right? It's only a vein, meaning it's only something inside of your body that because of which you're bleeding, and it's not menstrual blood that's coming out of you. Right? So once your menses start, leave the prayer. And once they stop, right, then continue to pray. And just wash away the blood and continue to pray. And we'll get into this type of blood, what it's called in Arabic. Okay? The second hadith is the hadith of Habiba. Muslim, Sahih Muslim 334. The third hadith is the hadith of Hamnata binti Jahsh. Abu Dawood 287 and Tirmidhi 128. Abu Dawood 287 and Tirmidhi 128. And the last hadith, there are 4 major hadith in this chapter. This one ayah is the hadith of Salama. Abu Dawood 274. And Imam Ahmad said that the chapter of menstruation revolves around these 5 proofs. The ayah and these 4 hadith. Okay? The first type of blood, so there are 4 types of blood, and we're just going to quickly define these types of blood. The first type of blood is menstrual blood. It's defined as a natural cycle of bleeding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in women. This is something that Allah has created. Okay? That comes from the womb of a woman when she is not pregnant. At the age and after the age of puberty, during certain known times. The second type of blood is postnatal bleeding, which is a natural expulsion of blood after giving birth. The third type, the natural expulsion of blood after giving birth. There are 4 types. Okay? The third one is, this is supposed to be a scene. Istihala, which is irregular. And the fourth one is fasad. By the way, these translations are from myself. Alright, so I could have made a mistake in translation. It's the best way for I can find to translate them. Right.
It was the menses in Arabic.
Huh? Menses, al-hayd.
Al-Hayd.
Al-hayd. So I asked my wife how I should translate these two, because I had difficulty translating them. And she was like, she's a doctor, so she was like, translate this irregular and this is abnormal. I didn't, so I was like, khalas, you know.
Second one is an-nifas.
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 Yeah. Istihada is irregular and damu fasad is abnormal. And let's define all of these now. So we defined the first two. Okay? The third one is istihada, or irregular. It's the expulsion or flowing of blood from women outside the normal times of her menses. Outside the normal time of her menses. Alright? And the last type is irregular. The last one is abnormal. Okay? Abnormal is defined as every type of bleeding that comes from a woman that is not menstrual, that is not irregular, and that is not postnatal. That is not one of the last three. Right? And it has different scenarios. Just write it has different scenarios, we'll fill in those scenarios. Okay, so first we'll go over the menses. So the age of the menses, the fuqaha, they say it begins from the completion of 9 years of age. Okay? So they say the earliest time it can start for a woman is based on 9 years of age. And they base this on a hadith of Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, in which she said, إذا بلغت الجارية 9 سنين فهي امرأة. When a girl reaches the age of 9, then she is considered a woman. And they say it's 9 years regardless of where she's from, regardless of whether lives in a warm climate or a colder climate or whatnot. Right? Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah said that I saw a grandmother that was 21 years old. I saw a grandmother that was 21 years old. So based on this, say that she, right? She gave birth at a very young age, and her daughter gave birth at a very young age. So any blood, according to the fuqaha, again going back to Islamic law, we're not talking about medicinally, right? That comes before the completion of 9 years of age, it's abnormal to them. It's not under one of the three categories. Alright? So that's the first scenario. Blood that a woman sees before the age of 9. And we'll get to all the rulings that pertain to each one. There's rulings that pertain to each scenario, each of these types of blood. The second is till 50 years of age. Meaning after the age of 50, if a woman bleeds, it's considered abnormal. Right? They base this on a hadith in which Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha said, إِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْمَرْأَةُ 50 سَنَةً خَرَجَتْ عَنْ حَدِّ الْحَيْضِ. When a woman reaches the age of 50, she has left the age in which she menstruates. So if she sees blood after the age of 50, right, is it considered menses? No, it's considered abnormal according to these fuqaha, according to these scholars. Okay? And we're going to get to the rulings of each type of blood. Each type of blood they have a different ruling. Okay? The time, they say the minimum it has to be 1 complete day and 1 complete night. Okay? So for her blood to be considered menstrual blood according to the fuqaha, the jurists, she has to bleed for 1 complete day and 1 complete night, meaning the 24 hours. If she bleeds for 3 or 4 hours and then her bleeding stops, they say it's considered abnormal. And this is the third scenario. Third scenario for abnormal. Okay. The second is the maximum limit she can bleed. So, do you guys understand what we're trying to do here? We're trying to establish parameters, trying to establish guidelines on how we know something is menstrual blood or not. Okay? So they say the maximum a woman can bleed, or she can have her menses, right, is 15 days. Okay, and they base this also on certain hadith.
Is that also...
So hold on, a very good point. So if a woman keeps on bleeding for more than 15 days, it's not considered abnormal. It's considered irregular. There's a difference now. It's considered irregular and not abnormal. So that's why I said write down the scenarios for each one.
What was the third scenario for abnormal?
If it's less than 1 day and 1 night. For example, she bleeds for 3 or 4 hours in the day, and then her bleeding stops. You did. And then finally, the usual time the fuqaha they say is 6 or 7 days, about a week. Okay? And they base it on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in which he was asked by a woman that I bleed a lot, right? I continuously bleed. And so he said that he mentioned to her that to go by the ghalib, which is 6 or 7 days. Okay? Or the ghalib is usually. Alright? So that's just, again, to establish a parameter of what usually happens. They're trying to make a generalized scenario. Again, this is case by case, alright? It doesn't refer to every single woman. Okay, so have we understood the scenarios in which of abnormal bleeding? Damu fasad is below the age of 9, after the age of 50, less than a day and night. And the fourth scenario is blood that comes out while she's pregnant. Okay, because the Hanabila, they say that while a woman is pregnant, she cannot have her menses. So they consider these to be abnormal. So irregular, we only have one scenario so far. And that is what?
Last 50 days.
Huh?
Last 15 days.
Last 15 days?
Last 15 days. Past 15 days is irregular.
Past 15 days. Very good, yeah. Okay. Past 15 days. Very good. So what are the rulings that are associated with menses now? The first type. The first is that she is absolved of praying. Okay? She is absolved of praying. Not only is it not obligatory on her, but once her menses end, she does not have to make those prayers up. Okay? However, if, let's say, the time of Dhuhr starts at 1 p.m. and she didn't pray, right? And her menses started an hour later at 2 p.m. Does she have to make up that Dhuhr prayer? Yes, she has to make up that Dhuhr prayer once her menses end. Okay? Once her menses end, she has to go back and make up that Dhuhr prayer. She's not sinful. That's a different issue altogether, whether she's sinful or not. She's not sinful because she did something that was permissible for her to do, which is to delay the Dhuhr prayer until within that time frame. Right? Just so happened that her menses started, so she'll have to make that up once her menses end. Okay?
And is that along? I've heard different.
What?
That if a sister delays her Dhuhr and then upon an hour into Salat Dhuhr she gets her menses, that she's actually not responsible for that Dhuhr prayer.
I don't know anyone that says that. I don't know that part. The reason the fuqaha, they say she's responsible is because it became her responsibility to pray that prayer. But she was given the leeway to delay it until the time of Asr. So as long as it fell into her responsibility, right? They say in Sharia, dhimma, right? It's her responsibility to pray that prayer, right? Now something happened that she couldn't pray that prayer, so she has to make it up at a later time. Okay, it's similar to the person that the time of Dhuhr started, right? And after the time of Dhuhr started, for some reason he fainted. If he fainted when he wakes up, he still has to make up that prayer, right? Because it was a responsibility for him to pray. But something happened that was beyond his control. So even though he's not sinful, he still has to make it up because it fell into his responsibility. Now, menses, all right, they forbid 15 things. His hands dropped. I won't go through all 15. Right? It'll be too much.
No, not for me.
It'll be too much because it's already 5 o'clock. Right? So we'll just go with this. The second thing is that she's absolved of fasting. She does not have. Actually, she's not allowed to fast. And, however, she has to make up the fast if the fast was an obligatory fast. So during the month of Ramadan, right, if her menses start, she is not allowed to fast. Okay? But once the month of Ramadan ends, she has to make up those fasts. Alright? That only applies to an obligatory fast. If the fast is voluntary, she doesn't have to make it up. Okay? And this is based on the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, in which a woman came to her and said that why does a menstruating woman have to make up the fast but she doesn't have to make up the prayers? And so Aisha, she rebuked this woman and she said, "Aharuriyati anti," right? Are you a Haruriya? A Haruriya was the name of a place. It was the name of a town that the Khawarij ascribed themselves to. And because of their extremeness in their religion, they would order their women to make up their prayers just like they make up their fasts. So Aisha scolded her and said, "Why are you attributing yourself to these type of people?" Right? Do as the Prophet ﷺ commanded, is that only make up the fast and not the prayers. Meaning don't go to extremes in your religion. Okay? Once a woman sees her menses, then puberty is established.
Is that before age 9?
If it's before the age of 9, puberty is not established. No. Because they say again that goes back to abnormal bleeding, right? The next is that intercourse is impermissible with a menstruating woman. And this is by consensus of scholars. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ قُلْ هُوَ أَذَى فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْمَحِيضِ. Stay away from women during this time. And what does it mean? It means that the actual act of intercourse is impermissible, right? Anything before that is permissible. If they engage in intercourse, then they have to give an expiation, which is 1 or half a dinar, which is 4.25 grams in gold and equivalent to 1 dinar, let's write this down first. 1 dinar is equivalent to $188.53 in our modern times. Half a dinar, half of that amount, is $94.27. And they can pick which one they want to give. Okay? And if the woman agreed also to the intercourse, then she has to give the expiation along with the man. Okay? Clear? Entering the masjid is impermissible for a menstruating woman while she's in her menses. Again, we're talking about which type of blood?
Menses.
The first type, menses. Okay? Entering the woman, masjid is impermissible, and this is according to all 4 madahib. However, a minority opinion is that she's allowed to enter the masjid if she can make sure that there will be nothing spills on the carpet or anything of that sort.
And that just is for a musalla, like not a classroom.
Classroom is okay. Well, actually, that would go back to what is the definition of a masjid. So, the Hanabila, they define a masjid as an area that has a gate around it. So, according to them, even the parking lot is part of the masjid. Which is actually, if you look at it, in some ways easy, some ways difficult, right? Because a person that's doing i'tikaf, he can go all the way to the parking lot. According to the Hanafi, he cannot. Right? But if you go to Medina, a menstruating woman can't even enter the courtyard. According to that opinion. See, some ways easy, some ways difficult, right? But again, I mentioned that the 4 madahib say that she's not allowed to enter the masjid, and there is a minority opinion which some scholars do give fatwa by in our time that she is allowed to enter the masjid if she can make sure that nothing will be soiled. Right?
I've also heard that if a woman does, then it invalidates the prayer of others. Is that?
No.
I don't remember where I heard it, but if a menstruating woman passes in front of a person that is praying, like they're actually doing their salah, it invalidates the person doing their salah.
No. Hanabila say nothing invalidates the person's prayer by someone passing in front of him except for a black dog. And even the black dog, they say, لأنه شيطان ورد في الحديث, because it's the devil. Which is hadith. Right? Some other fuqaha, they say nothing invalidates at all.
Shouldn't you stop anybody from passing in front of you?
Yes, if you have a sutra, yes. They should not pass through. That's the front. Alright. And finally, reciting the Quran is impermissible for a menstruating woman. And this is again the 4 madahib. The 3 madahib, except for the Maliki madhab. The Maliki madhab allows for a woman to recite the Quran while she's on her menses. And this is also the opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah, and this is also opinion from Imam Ahmad.
Is there a difference between reciting from a musaf and reciting from memory?
No, there's no difference. They say completely it's forbidden.
Except in the case of du'as, right?
Except in the case of du'as, Subhanalladhi sakhra lana hadha ma kunna lahu muqrinin wa inna ila rabbina lamunqalibun. Right? These ayat when you sit in the car, Rabbana, or when you're making du'a, that's fine. Do we understand the khilaf? The differences of opinion? Okay. Method of purification, minimum is 13 days. Okay? So if a woman bleeds, right, for 7 days, they say that the minimum period that she must be pure before her next menstrual cycle comes is 13 days. Okay? If her menstrual cycle comes before that, then this is the 5th scenario for damu fasad. This is the 5th scenario. This is the 2nd scenario for irregular bleeding. that if her menstrual cycle comes before a minimum period of 13 days. Okay, so if a woman has her menses, she must have a minimum period of 13 days of purity before she has her next cycle again.
So if the bleeding occurs again within those 13 days?
Then it's considered irregular bleeding.
You said 13 days?
13 days, yes. And the maximum limit is that there is no upper limit. Meaning she can bleed for 6 or 7 days, and then for 6 months she has no menstrual cycle again. The usual amount is the remainder of the month. So it's possible that a woman can have, what's the maximum number of times a woman can have a menstrual cycle in 1 month, according to what we learned?
The maximum?
Maximum. Maximum number of cycles in 1 month.
2.
22.
2?
Well, if it's 6 days plus 13. Right?
Come on.
10 plus 13, 28.
That's
1.
what- That's 1.
The maximum number of menstrual cycles she can have in 1 day.
Oh, 2.
In 1 month. 2.
And in the beginning of the month, you get 13 days, you can get a whole.
Okay, let me ask you, what's the maximum number of times she can bleed? 3 separate bleedings.
Well, it could be multiple times, so the minimum time is 1 day and night.
Very good. You're on track. So how many times is it?
3.
Very good. It's 3. She can bleed for 1 day and 1 night. She can be pure for 13 days. That's how many days? 14. She can bleed for another day and another night. That's 15 days. Then she can be pure for another 13 days. That's 28. And then she can bleed for 1 day and 1 night again. And she can have 3 menstrual cycles in 1 month. It's possible. The postnatal bleeding, we have to finish this quickly in like 2-3 minutes because Salah's about to start.
But usually, the last slide, go back last slide.
Usually it's the remainder of the month. The postnatal bleeding is rulings are similar to menstruation in regards to what is permissible and what is impermissible. Okay. The maximum is 40 days and the minimum, there's no minimum for it. So after a woman gives birth, the maximum time she can bleed under which these laws apply is 40 days. And if she gives birth to twins, then the criteria is by the first child that is born, not the second one. Abnormal bleeding, I already went over this. I already told you all of these scenarios. Bleeding during pregnancy is considered abnormal bleeding. Bleeding below the age of 9, and bleeding less than a full day and night. And what is the scenario we left out here that's not mentioned on this slide? Bleeding after the age, after the age of 50. Very good. After the age of 50. Okay, irregular bleeding. This has 3 scenarios now. If you guys could just put down your pens for just 1 second, just listen. Just want you to listen. Because this, you have to picture the scenario, you have to understand this. The first scenario is a woman has a normal pattern. Okay, this is called mu'tadda in Arabic. What that means is that a woman bleeds, right, or has her menses on normal fixed days every single month. Okay, for example, the first 7 days of every single month. Okay, then let's say in 1 month she keeps on bleeding. It doesn't stop after the 7th day. Okay, how do we know what's considered her menses and what's considered irregular bleeding at this point? Okay, we go by her pattern. So on the 7th day, up till the 7th day, it's considered menses. After the 7th day, it's considered irregular, not abnormal. Okay? Abnormal has very fixed scenarios. I already mentioned those scenarios. All right? Irregular is after the 7th day. Okay? Is that clear? Okay. Just wait, don't write it down yet. The second scenario is that she can differentiate. She doesn't have a fixed pattern. Sometimes she bleeds the first 7 days, sometimes she bleeds the second 7, sometimes the third 7, sometimes she bleeds 4 days, right? However, when she goes past these number of days, there's a difference in the color and the smell of the blood, all right? If she can differentiate based on this color and smell, she goes with the differentiation, okay? If she can differentiate, she goes with differentiation. Now there is a scenario that is not mentioned here, and that is if she has a fixed pattern and she sees a difference in the blood. She gives preference to her fixed pattern. Okay, the scenario of that is that let's say she bleeds the first 7 days of every month. Okay, in the second month she bleeds the first 7 days, and then she continues to bleed till the 10th day, and after the 10th day her blood changes color. Right, she will only consider the first 7 days to be menses. All right, the 3 days after the 7, even though they look like menstrual blood, she will pray and she will fast in those days. Okay? The third is she does not have a pattern, nor can she differentiate. Okay? She doesn't have a fixed pattern every single month, nor can she differentiate based on the type of blood. In that scenario, she looks at the women in her household and she goes by what most of the women have. So most of the women, that I guess you could say, based on what we took earlier, are 6 or 7 days, and on what type and what part of the month they have the cycle. Okay? Again, this applies to the woman that has irregular bleeding. She continues to bleed. Okay? For women that have a fixed cycle, they go with the fixed cycle.
What if she's the only woman in her household, and how does she judge?
She looks at her relatives. Okay? She looks at her relatives. Don't write yet. Alright, let's go over these questions quickly. Alright. Clarify the type of blood in the following scenarios. Blood that looks like menstrual blood but comes out of a 7-year-old girl. Abnormal. Very good. Blood that looks like menstrual blood comes out of an 80-year-old woman. Abnormal. Very good. A woman bled for 6 hours and stopped bleeding completely. Abnormal. Very good. It's less than 1 day and 1 night. Right? A woman usually bleeds for 9 days and her menses came for this amount of time. However, when the 9th day ended, she continued to bleed for another 17 days, a total of 26 days. What is the ruling of the blood in the last 17 days? Irregular. Very good. She had her menses for 15 days, then her menses stopped for 5 days. Then she bled for another 7 days. What is the ruling of the bleeding in the last 7 days? Irregular. Why is it irregular? Very good. Minimum 13 days. Has to be between 2 periods of bleeding. Okay. A woman bled for 30 days after giving birth to twins. Then her bleeding stopped for 7 days. Then she bled again for 7 more days. What is this type of bleeding called, and how many days did she bleed? Which of these 4 types of bleeding is it? No. Postnatal. She bled after giving birth.
Oh no, I thought the second 7 days. The second, yeah. The later 7 days.
Okay, no. What is this type of bleeding called? Postnatal.
Yeah.
Okay. How many days did she bleed? Or how many days is considered her bleeding is valid? Total.
37. But only 40.
33.
Yeah, she bled for 33 days of the period.
Alright. She bled for 33 days out of the 40 days. Remember we said postnatal bleeding is for a maximum of 40 days. So we cross out the extra 4 because they're irregular. In the 4th month of her pregnancy, she bled for 1 complete day and then stopped bleeding. Abnormal. Very good. Why?
Because she's pregnant.
Very good, she's pregnant. And with that we conclude. Alhamdulillah. Alright, now you can go back and write these.
So my question is regarding,
We finished. We finished
at the time of Salah.
at the time of Salah. What time is Salah?
Oh, they're about to start now?
Should start 5:15 or?
I don't think they've started yet.
I didn't hear Adhan.
Yeah, your question?
So for, couple questions, so I was supposed to ask questions on behalf of sisters who couldn't make it
Yeah.
this time.
No, you can go ahead, ask your question, we'll go. Yeah, they're calling. Yeah, go ahead, ask your
Okay,
question.
so, during Ramadan,
Yeah.
if the sister has, she's bled, she had her menses, but she is not able to clean herself before the start of, like, let's say before suhoor, to
Yeah.
actually start fasting a new day, but she has intentions to fast. Is it compulsory that she cleans herself?
No, she doesn't have to bath.
Okay.
She doesn't have to take a shower. She can start fasting even if she hasn't taken a bath. However, if the husband and wife want to have intimate relations, they must take a bath before the relations. Is that clear?
But I mean, in the case of Ramadan, they wouldn't, because.
In Ramadan it's different. I'm talking about generally.
Okay.
Yeah, outside of Ramadan. Here, take my bowl on.
No, I can't.
I can't eat. I can't eat.
Oh, you're fasting.
You're fasting.
No.